ladies and gentlemen, we have finally made it. Hang on. Yeah, I can turn the intro off. I have no idea if that correctly worked or not, but we are finally here, Movie Mania Podcast. How you doing, guys?
Am I allowed to talk now?
Good.
Yes.
We had to stay very, very quiet because we're hunting Wookiees.
I'm doing great, by the way. It's good to hear from you guys, Trilbee. It's good to hear from you again. I'm here to join you guys for the full podcast. I've definitely seen the movie we're talking about today. I loved it when X happened and Y happened because of it. It was very fun. How are you doing, Trilbee?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, it's 2:00 in the morning here as usual. Been out, had a few reunion drinks with some friends from university. So I'm a little bit not there with my mind. Should be fun. Should be a fun couple of hours. But anyway, Bandit, how are you doing?
One of the best podcasts we've ever recorded, by the way, is when Trilbee was slightly drunk.
Probably, yeah. I forgot what we were talking about in the episode.
It was the Cornetto trilogy. You were slightly. You had like 6 glasses of wine or something like that. And it was like our best podcast ever.
Yeah,
ironically, Bandit wasn't there.
Had a nice cold pint and waited for the whole podcast to blow over.
I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there. Let me just ask the chat. That was our first attempt at playing the intros during the stream. Guys, did it work or was that a horrible disaster like everything else? Let us know in the chat. I'll be interested to know. Well, how am I doing, guys? I am doing well. I am feeling very, very smug, very arrogant, even more insufferable than I normally am.
I've seen the video, and we will get to that discussion later on. But yes.
Sure. Well, we won't get into it now, but but yeah, because I think Trilbee, because we mentioned last week, talking about Solo, that we're talking about with Solo. We mentioned last week that there's going to be 2 aspects to the review: the movie itself, and then the whole controversy surrounding it. And based off how many comments came in on that video, very quickly, it seems that people are very interested to talk about the controversy surrounding it and the boycott and Kathleen Kennedy versus the fan and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I think it will be an interesting discussion with a lot of numerous aspects to it. And it's like the low box office is something that I don't know if I predicted it on this podcast or in a video or whatever, but I called like the roundabout the number it wound up it's predicted to get this weekend, even though there were people saying it will make 150 million in this opening weekend, and it's not made even close to that. But we'll get
I tweeted
to
that maybe like right before the first trailer, a couple months maybe before that, and I was like, I'm calling it now. Solo doesn't cross $1 billion, and I don't think it's going to. And I feel kind of happy about that. I think we're all feeling this way for different reasons, slightly different reasons. However, some of us some of us are looking or after something different. I think from our Star Wars franchise, but we will also get to that discussion later on when we talk about the box office and the news.
That's right, and no one in the chat is mentioning whether the intro worked or not, so I don't know if it did. I guess we'll find out when this is about.
I could rewind the stream really quickly.
Yeah. Oh god, don't risk doing that. Oh god, that's the last thing we need. More technically.
Just to incept the entire podcast.
I was going to say, I might have to mute you guys for like 10 seconds while my brain can't cope. My poor man brain.
And I think also
remembering.
Yeah. Actually, I am feeling a bit paranoid now. Could one of you guys maybe actually? I'll take thoughts. Could you maybe just click on it and make sure
in the chat are saying that there was no intro, which is a shame because it worked in rehearsal. There was an intro in rehearsal.
Dude, so upset. I tested it all yesterday and it all worked fine.
Oh, it's all Kathleen Kennedy's fault.
Yes, it is. That's true. That's that's the new get out of jail free card.
Yeah, I'll find some way to blame Oscar Isaac.
Yeah. Okay. So should we what should we do? Should we do movie news?
Oh yeah, we got a couple things we can talk about.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I was waiting for Bandit to put in the intro. Do we have the intro? Or are we just gonna jump into it?
I was gonna say it might not work. I think behind the scenes magic is happening.
Let me do some singing. Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm gonna play it now. Play it now.
Okay.
Okay, everyone in the chat. This is me pressing play right now.
It sounds riveting in that it's not there. There's nothing.
I love the white whale.
So you can't hear it?
No,
I love.
I'm afraid
this is Bandit's.
No! I hate this so much.
This is
all right,
hilarious. I love this so much.
Good.
Oh god, let's just push on anyway. Movie news.
Can all the new intros just be silent and then Bandit occasionally going, "Aw"? Can that just be all the intros? That's hilarious. Okay, so first level of movie news here. Let's talk about Morgan Freeman because I feel like we kind of have to. So I'm sitting in orchestra class because I still play my violin, and I get a text from my friend, and he says they got Morgan Freeman, and I was like, "Oh no, is he dead?" And so I didn't check my phone for the rest of the period, but and I was just like, "Oh man, I guess Morgan Freeman died." I wouldn't tell my friends, and then I Googled it, and I was like, "No, he's not dead. He's just been accused of sexual harassment and assault by 8 different people." And I thought, "Wow, I'd rather he be dead." So yeah, they got
not Morgan Freeman.
That's what I said.
It's got to be said, according to some of the reports, it's not like full on Harvey Weinstein, like undressing in a bathrobe, trying to like rape women or whatever. It's like inappropriate comments, inappropriate touching in certain situations. And like Morgan Freeman, he initially apologized for the behavior, saying that it wasn't my intention in that, but now he's like flat out denying the accusations, which is kind of strange and random, but however, he wants to deal with it or defend himself. So of course, like there's court of public opinion and there's like all the other stuff. And like we've seen Harvey Weinstein, he surrendered himself to the police this past week and he was released on a $1 million bail. So yeah, it seems that this is another like casualty in a way. It'll be interesting to see if there is some like fallout from his career or whatever happens in the near future. So, but Morgan Freeman is not one who I personally expected, but there's not exactly a list, if that makes sense. There's not a list of ones who are definitely okay, except Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is a wonderful man. And
he's busy making coffee. Yeah. Watch tomorrow news is going to come out and be like, Hugh Jackman been accused of raping 37 people. I'm like, no.
Did you see like the joke article from The Onion saying Tom Hanks has been accused of, and it was like, oh god, what happened? And the article was being a very decent bloke. I was like, yeah, that sounds like Tom Hanks. And
sounds about right. Yeah.
And in the super chat, Sam Heinrich has donated $25.
Woo! Thank you, Sam.
So I think Sam donated something last week, so he's like a regular donor. Thank you.
He donates every week. Actually, it's pretty great. Yeah,
I do because Sam last week, I promised Sam I would have the intros working. Sorry, Sam, I still haven't. And Sam also asked about setting up a Discord server, and initially I was skeptical because I was like, if we have the point of the live stream is we have everyone focused here, it's easy for us to keep communication with the fans and all that. But I thought Discord, if it's scattered around different platforms, it might be difficult to keep track of everyone. But on having looked at it now, yes, we are going to set up a Discord. I've downloaded the thing. I'm going to set up a Discord because I thought if we have a Discord, it'll make it really easy to do certain schemes, which I'm going to get all our listeners to help out with very shortly. Schemes.
We are not hate tweeting Kathleen Kennedy. That's not happening.
No, we're not hate tweeting. We're not hate tweeting. But we are going to do a Twitter storm on a certain person related to Star Wars. But it's going to be positive, so don't worry. No, Ewan McGregor.
Oh, cool.
We're gonna try to get because we want the show because I'll do it. I'm down for that.
Because if they're going to do a Ben Kenobi movie, we want to see Obi-Wan Kenobi fight a certain other person who I can't mention yet because we haven't gotten into spoilers yet. Even though everyone
knows.
Wow, that's a really nice spoiler dodge there, man.
So I'm like, we got another donation. Cool. Thank you, Mr. Pete Channel. Thank you. All the super chats we'll read first during the listener question bit at the end of the show. But yes, when we get to the spoiler section, and I can finally talk about who that person was who was revealed, even though it's not really a spoiler, because fans of Star Wars Rebels have known this character's like the return in air quotes of this character. He's been around for ages already.
Should we just stop talking about it before people like who haven't seen Solo pick up?
I do have like a slight Star Wars digression that is also movie news.
All right.
So remember 3 months ago, Twitter user Ian Fee.
Can I pause you for a second? Bandit, if you start I'm sorry, Bandit, if you start copying questions, make sure you copy down people's names so you don't get one guy asking 19 questions again. Sorry.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Make sure you also copy down the names. Yeah. Okay, sorry, you were saying, Trilbee.
But yeah, Twitter user 3 months ago, Ian Fee, he tweeted James Gunn, director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, saying, "Oh, Mark Hamill should totally be in one of your movies." And then they found out that James Gunn and Mark Hamill are basically neighbors. And they were going to meet up and have a meeting today or yesterday. Mark Hamill and James Gunn had that meeting.
It was him. It was him, James Gunn, and some other third guy that I follow around. And I saw them on social media. I was like, "Ooh, what are they planning?" Is he?
They had a meetup, and it's just great seeing guys like that get along and share so much common ground with each other. And there's a pretty good chance that Mark Hamill will be in Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's great to know that.
Yes, I would love that.
James Gunn will often post on Twitter and Instagram, like he's just like, "Yeah, I'm just chilling in Japan," and like next to him is like a laptop that says Guardians Volume 3, and it was like, he's just casually writing the third movie while he's on vacation with his wife or whatever. Yeah, I think that's really fun.
That's living the dream.
That really is.
And I guess now that Luke is dead, that kind of does free up Mark Hamill in a way to play more characters. I mean, I suppose he always could play characters, but it just feels like he's more available now for some reason. Don't know why.
Yeah, he's not going to be in the Kingsman sequel, is he?
If you guys want to avoid spoilers, people listening, please don't look in the chat. I apologize. I love that. That's amazing. Please no spoiler. And then immediately someone says, "Well, bloody blah and Rebels." Oh well, people are the worst.
It's not even a spoiler though. I mean,
it is.
It's not a
Han Solo movie.
It's not something that directly affects the plot, but it is pitched as a surprise in the movie. But we'll get to it later.
They're so proud of it too.
It surprised me. I didn't expect to see him.
Well, they could have done anything and surprised people. Sorry, that's whatever. It's fine. B. Arthur could have showed up and been like, "Oh, whoa, B. Arthur's in this? I didn't see that coming." So just because it's
Warwick Davis could have showed up and people would be like, "Whoa, look at that! It's Warwick Davis."
Now, just if British actor Warwick Davis just would have walked out, I probably would have cried. I'm like, they're giving him something to do. All right. Anyways,
well, he was in it.
That's the joke.
I haven't seen. That's
the joke, Trey.
Anyway,
this is what happens when you don't see the movie, Trey.
Red-handed.
There was a trailer that came out last week that we didn't talk about in the podcast. Did you see the trailer for the Happy Time Murders?
No, I thought you were going to mention. I thought you were going to say Ocean's 8 because the trailer just came out before we started.
We're not talking about Ocean's 8, Bandit. I'm gonna divert you away from that discussion.
I think it looks all right. Ocean's 8.
It does. It looks all right. But I thought, you know who would have been great in that? Rebel Wilson. The fat Aussie chick. Needed her in there.
She's awful.
I think she's good at hitting that one note really well.
She has one good line in Pitch Perfect where she says her name's actually Fat Patricia, and the way she delivers that line makes me smile every time. But everything else I've seen her and she makes me vomit.
Based off the trailer, they have Rihanna being the hacker. I'm like, nah, Rebel Wilson looks more like a hacker. Should have had Rebel Wilson be the hacker.
Well, I mean, Chris Hemsworth can play a hacker, so I mean, what's the big deal?
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But anyway, I totally derailed your point there. Here we go.
The Happy Time Murders, because Trey, you said you saw this, yeah?
Seen what? The Happy Time Murders? Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, it's a R-rated comedy directed by the son of Jim Henson, Brian Henson, the Muppets and that whole universe. And this is a film that has been in development hell for like nearly a decade from the Jim Henson Company. And it's finally getting made. It's finally been released by STX Entertainment. And it's Melissa McCarthy, who's teamed up with a grizzled detective puppet who's getting too old for this shit. And they're trying to solve murders in this puppet town. So it's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, except it's R-rated, lots of sex and violence, and instead of cartoons, it's Muppets. And the trailer made me laugh. I found it pretty funny.
It looks more like a great SNL sketch than a movie. I'm interested to see how they're going to pull it off, but I'll see it.
If this thing is longer than 90 or 100 minutes, I think we got a problem. But if it is able to stay at like that, just barely feature length, it may be able to get the joke all the way through.
Like, what if Ted was a buddy cop comedy movie, which I'm down for, because I mean, I think the first Ted is hilarious, and that movie still makes me chuckle every time I watch it. I find something.
But yeah, someone in the chat, who was it? I can't. The Mr. Pete channel said that Disney and the Muppets are suing the makers of the Happy Time Murders because in the poster and in the trailer they say no Sesame or Street, and they're trying to say that it's a lawsuit that will kind of infringe on the Sesame Street public brand and like make it like people will go think, oh, there's this puppet film for kids that's going to be really fun, and then there's like a 30-second ejaculation joke, and parents will be like, oh no, this is not for kids. So Sesame Street are basically trying to sue.
You know, when a movie comes out, there's a giant thing next to when you buy the movie ticket that says the letter of what it is. Sometimes it says a giant R, or sometimes before the trailer plays, it's like sometimes it's red. Sometimes it has a giant R on the green thing that plays before the trailer. Oftentimes, if the movie has something bad in it, they'll watch
parents who took kids to see Sausage Party, not knowing that it was an adult film.
That's the thing.
Well, hey, listen, parents out there, the buck stops with you. Okay, it's not the movie studio's job to look out for your kids. It's your job to look out for your kids. Pay attention to what movies you're taking them to.
Christ, I mean, to be fair, my grandmother bought Deadpool thinking it was Spider-Man. So I mean, like she got the Blu-ray. And she put it on. And I'm like, you sure you want to watch this movie? She's like, yeah, it looks fun. She put it on.
Did she like it?
She ended up enjoying it, but like 10 minutes in, she's like, what's going on? I'm so confused. My grandma just, it's an R-rated movie. She's like, I didn't know that. I'm like, well, you know, it says R on the back of the DVD, but whatever.
Well, it's like that'd actually be okay, because Deadpool in that movie, he talks to you, he's like, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I thought this was just a superhero movie. And now he just turned that guy into a kebab.
Yeah, that's when she started laughing around there. Yes.
We also had the trailer for Christopher Robin, which I'm going to be a wreck at the end of this film. I'm not even incredibly emotionally attached to Winnie the Pooh, but something about this marketing and just hearing Jim Cummings voice this lovable bear. This film's gonna break me.
I stopped the trailer about 30 seconds in because I feel like is it a trailer that shows you the whole movie? Because I feel like I didn't want to see.
No, it doesn't. It basically shows like what will happen in the first act and a couple of clips from the second and third, but nothing majorly spoilery as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Except the greatest line in movie history when Winnie the Pooh says, "People say that nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day."
That's a good thing to say. I don't know, I've been looking forward to this movie for a while.
Yes. Thug life. There we go. Yeah.
Wow.
Someone needs to edit that.
Jesus. Someone did the Liam Neeson, or not the Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, like hello there from Revenge of the Sith, and they like the General Kenobi, and they edited it out with the Winnie the Pooh from the first trailer. That first trailer is something magical, by the way. It's so good.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, those were like the trailers I wanted to talk about in terms of news. I don't know if anybody else had anything else.
The only thing I have to talk about, which kind of will lead into our main discussion here. I could talk about Deadpool 2 first. Should we wait to talk about Solo's box office until we get to talking about Solo? I want to talk about Deadpool 2 first.
Yeah, I think that will be just a good lead into the discussion so we don't get sidetracked.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, then, this will be homework then? Yes.
Sorry. Yes. One more thing I just noticed. Danny Boyle is confirmed to direct the next Bond film.
Yes, that's so exciting. That's amazing.
They're going to start filming in November, December 2018.
Oh, that's the best thing ever.
I can't tell if it's a sarcasm.
No, it's sarcasm. I'm like getting emotional. That's so awesome.
Who's he?
Who is he? He did Trainspotting. He did 127 Hours, Slumdog Millionaire.
Steve Jobs, one of the best movies ever out there, maybe.
He did do Steve Jobs. I forget.
I listened to his commentary on that movie, because I'm such a nerd for Steve Jobs, and it's just he's such a gift. God, I'm excited because this is what the Bond films need. They need auteurs like this who can bring their own distinct their own style and version of what a good filmmaker is to the franchise. Like the reason Skyfall is so good, whether some people know is because Sam Mendes brought that theatrical, very play-like style to the Bond franchise and came up with these huge bombastic sequences, and it was able to bring in that grimy Casino Royale feel that Martin Campbell does so well with the kind of old classical, let's have the big villain and the huge set pieces. So this is that's beautiful news. I love that so much.
But I'm glad you happy with that.
We're posting. Sorry, I was reading the comments.
Well, there was someone who said, "You versus me" says Winnie the Pooh also has a 30-second ejaculation joke. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
I don't know. They usually shoot them in mid shot.
If you've seen an early cut of the movie, please share it, because I
imagine it's gonna happen, right? Like someone like the Happy Time Murders and Winnie the Pooh they're gonna get their prints switched, and so sometimes he's gonna walk into Winnie the Pooh, and it's just gonna be like it's just gonna stop. That's hilarious.
Well, someone there was a story a couple of weeks ago. There's the horror film from A24, Hereditary. That a trailer for that played before a kids movie. I can't remember what the kids movie was, but it was the trailer when the young girl takes a pair of scissors to a dead pigeon and cuts off its head, and that was playing in front of the kids film.
I'm so excited for Hereditary, by the way. I hear nothing but great things, and I love all of A24's work. They usually do great stuff.
Veda is robosexual.
The 100-acre wood. The Mr. channel.
Well, I'll tell you what. You were talking about that movie with the puppets that's R-rated with lots of sex. Well, ever since I watched Anomalisa, puppet sex is not as weird as you think.
No, well, with Anomalisa, it was oddly tasteful. Like it's weird for like a bit, and you're just like, oh wait, these are just people now.
Well, you know what that means,
that
Trey?
Team America.
You know what it means? It means we're all pansexual now. That's what it means.
Bandit.
We're with you, Lando.
Hashtag I stand with Lando. Stando.
Hashtag droid rights matter. Droid lives matter. Hashtag we are sentient. Isn't that the hashtag they were trying to get trending? Yeah.
I can't remember.
I do like that. I do like that on Twitter. Whenever someone does the hashtag we are sentient, someone puts up the GIF. Someone puts up the GIF of that guy from A New Hope going, "We don't serve their kind in here." It's like, did you guys notice that?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys all went weirdly quiet there for a minute.
I was just reading the chat, and You versus Me said, "Oddly tasteful is going to be on my tombstone."
Oh man! All right, you guys are great. Okay.
So movie news. No, homework, isn't it?
Yeah, let's jump into the homework here. Do you want me to like sing the intro?
Yes, please do.
This is your homework. Your homework is to listen to some real music and get inspired. Is this your homework, Larry? Down with homework. Ha 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 ha. All right, guys, this is the homework portion of the show. Wasn't that great?
God, it's like
that was really good, actually.
Yeah, I will. When you edit this podcast for a year, you get to remember things. I don't remember what the new one sounds like, but anyways, this is the homework portion of the show in case where we talk about movies we've either assigned to see or just saw on our own. I saw Deadpool 2 because
what'd you think?
I had friends who wanted to see it, and I was like, I'd rather see Solo, but we'll see Deadpool 2. And
it's safe to go full spoilers, isn't it? We can go full
spoilers for Deadpool 2. It's probably better than the first, but I also didn't like the first one that much on reflection. It's got some great action. It's got a really charming performance by Josh Brolin. He's really fun to watch. I think Ryan Reynolds lays on just a hair too thick throughout most of the movie. I think every time they did that fourth wall breaking humor is where the movie really succeeds. All of the in-universe kind of humor fell completely flat for me. I don't know if they thought the actress that plays Domino can improvise, which she can't. And if it's actually written in the script, then the script is awful. But I will say there are certain things that this movie does where I'm like, that's some of the best stuff I've seen in a comic movie maybe ever. I thought the Rock versus Jason Statham bit in Fast and Furious 8 was one of the best prison scenes I've seen in the movie. Yeah. But then I saw the fight scene in this movie. I was like, that's pretty great. And then the beauty of it doesn't feel like a fourth wall break when they assemble the X-Force only to kill them off. But I look at it as, and this is me maybe looking too into movies as I tend to do. I feel like it's kind of like a statement on we don't want to build a universe. We don't care enough to build our universe and expand this world out. So just when they try to bring in all these like aliens and fictional characters that can like with mutant powers, they just systematically destroy them all in such beautiful and viciously gruesome ways. Like Peter gets vomited on by acid, and it's like he's just melted into paste, and it's so beautiful. But
did you like the? Sorry, go ahead.
No, and kudos to this movie for making. I believe it's a Fight Club reference because we get a flash of young Brad Pitt as the Vanisher or whatever his name is. And
was it the young Brad Pitt? I wondered why it was so hard to recognize him.
It looked like Brad Pitt from like Fight Club era, and it was only a flash, and so I imagine it's like that's what they were making an homage to. But either way, it's one of the best cameos in the movie.
They probably just gave him a call and said, "Do you mind if we use your face for like 2 seconds?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Yeah. So they just like digitally. That's probably what they did.
I don't care.
Negotiations to play Cable at one point.
That makes sense.
So maybe like he didn't get the role of Cable because of scheduling, or maybe they couldn't afford him. But it was like, can we just like use you for like 10 seconds? Like just you're in the green screen studio for 10 seconds, and you're in the movie for 1 second.
You know, it's amazing that Brad Pitt is so famous because he's never really picked any of the blockbuster roles, has he? He's always picked the weird sort of stuff.
I think World War Z might just be his biggest film, but even then, that's not a trip. That's not a tentpole.
Yeah,
it's weird that he's so popular. But in terms of movies, he's not the biggest movie star out there. There's a lot of movie stars out there bigger than him, but he's just sort of, his name, you know, conjures this huge image of like Brad Pitt, the Adonis or something, as Troy, Achilles, whatever it is. Yeah, but that hasn't translated to the box office all that much.
I'm trying to think about, he did 7.
It's because he has women fans and they don't see movies. Sorry, go on.
Oh boy.
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking around, guys.
I do declare.
Speaking of women,
Deadpool 2, you were saying.
Girlfriend dies, and I was turning to me like, wait a minute, they just killed the villain, and then they do a Bond credit sequence, and I'm dying in the theater. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. I'm so excited because they kill off the girlfriend, and I'm like, wait, did they just kill her off? Are they serious? And then it's like directed by one of the dicks that killed John Wick's dog, and I'm like, this is going to go so great, and then it just doesn't, and it's just kind of mediocre and very bland. I was really bored throughout a huge chunk of it. And I think Deadpool's quote-unquote death scene goes on for like 30 minutes too long. It's rough. And the post-credit scene's fun, but I think I enjoyed myself like 15 minutes out of the entire movie. Most of it I was just kind of sitting there bored. And it really didn't do anything for me. And everyone's like, maybe movies or maybe Infinity War sour brew for the summer, but I don't know. I really wasn't finding myself enjoying myself too much. I don't know. The action is good though. The action's fun.
Did you like the end credit scene or the mid credit scene?
Yeah, I thought those post credit scenes were very well. They were a lot of fun. I appreciate that the movie doesn't take itself too seriously and that they're not afraid to just redo everything that they just spent this entire movie going over. But at the same time, if they're not going to take themselves very seriously, then there's not really any actual weight to any of this, so I can't find myself getting too invested in it. Like even it's like the Thor Ragnarok problem. Like, well, if you're not going to take this seriously, then why should I waste my time watching you? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know. There's a way to do a impact to it. Like the Lego movie is a great example of a movie that clearly doesn't care that it's a movie about Legos, but it also manages to tell a compelling story with real characters that has weight and consequence to it. But that's just my 2 cents about it.
Wow. Okay.
Sorry to play buzzkill.
So what rating would you give it, say, out of 10?
I've been leaning between like a 5.8 and a 6.5, somewhere in that range. Like an lower 6, somewhere in the low 6 range. I don't know. It was fine. I had some fun sort of through it. It didn't anger me, but that's true. It wasn't like that sucked, or it wasn't like that was amazing. It was very meh.
So, sorry, Hulk Pooza, we didn't mean to spoil you on John Wick. Did I read that right? Yeah, genuinely sorry.
Spoilers for Deadpool.
Oh,
yeah. He
sorry,
says in the
dude.
chat
We
for
apologize.
Deadpool, we did give a warning beforehand. To be fair,
we did.
Yeah, but the warning's only good after the thing's processed, and I can put in the timestamps for people to skip.
Carlos, Carlos Angel
classic
hates
Trey just ruining everyone's day.
Yes, that's right.
You asked what I thought about it.
Why is it, Trey? Why have you become the grumpy old man of the podcast? That used to be me.
We talked about A Quiet Place 2 weeks ago, and I loved that movie, man. And I didn't hate it. I was just really excited about Danny Boyle doing Bond 25. So I mean,
that's true.
We've got our moments, and Mission Impossible looks insane, and I can't wait. I'm so excited for Fallout. So when that comes out, I'm excited to talk about that one.
Yeah. My favorite part of the Mission Impossible Fallout trailer is when Henry Cavill reloads his punches.
Yes, I didn't see the second trailer because I don't want anything else ruined for me. But that first trailer before he punches a guy so bad that he kickstarts the music again. In the trailer, the punch is so intense that the soundtrack has to start just to avoid the sound of a man crying himself to sleep. Oh, it's so awesome! I love that trailer so much. And then it's just Tom Cruise wanting to kill himself for 2 hours. I'm like, of course I'm going to watch that. So yeah, I get excited about other things, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry that this has been a mediocre summer for me. I didn't see Solo though. Maybe I'll like Solo. Didn't look 7 minutes I saw it, but
well, it's all right. You can wait till it comes out on Netflix. You're not missing all that much.
I'm gonna champion it probably tonight and watch.
And you know what that means? Segue. Ooh. It means you're part of the boycott, Trey.
All right.
Welcome to the Resistance, where we strike a blow against the evil empire called Disney. We have the power to control what movies succeed and which fail.
It's like that scene in
Disney can either profit from this or be destroyed. Disney can either profit from this or be destroyed. It's their choice, but I warn them not to underestimate our power.
I feel a great pity for anyone that tries to go to Disney and say that they're not going to see their movies.
That's right. Well, how do you want to do this, Trilbee? Do you want to handle the boycott stuff and the stuff surrounding the movie before we jump in the review, or you want to do it the other way around?
I'm thinking it might work the other way around if we just talk about the movie first.
Well, I guess that wouldn't take long. There's not much to talk about.
Which is kind of true.
People are more interested in the other one by the looks of things, but
yeah, I think we'll go non-spoilers for a little bit because really there's not that much to spoil.
I mean, geez, what in God's name is going to happen in this movie that's like, whoa, that's totally changing the universe. That changes everything.
Han Solo dies, and it turns out the Star Wars universe has a split timeline.
Anytime you thought Han Solo's in danger, just remember he's in 7 other movies. What do you want me to say? Oh boy!
So we're officially starting the movie review of Han Solo for the timestamps.
Yes. And now your feature presentation. Do 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 do.
Oh god, that sounds so dirty.
Yeah, immediately followed up.
Well, me and Bandit have to have these moments. It reminds when I first got a mic, like a good working mic, the mic I currently use. And the first thing he said to me was, "It's like honey being poured in my ears." And I said, "Thanks, Bandit. I'm 15." I remember that conversation. I was 16 at the time.
And then I was like, "Oh, if I had known that, I wouldn't be doing the podcast with you because I could get locked up or something."
Yes. That's how this works, guys. Lie how you are, and that's how you get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, Trey, he catfished me. That's right. Is it?
Oh god.
So Han's Solo, a Star Wars story. It's the movie that pretty much nobody asked for, and they very confidently put up against.
I've seen 7 minutes of this movie, and so let me, if I may, real quick. So the movie starts out with this blue text. And this isn't a spoiler, so it's fine. Why didn't they just do a crawl? Is this what they're going to do now? That instead of
the Star Wars stories don't have an opening crawl. Those
I know, but they still try to give out exposition via text. So like, why not just do a crawl?
I guess just to differentiate between the trilogy movies and the standalones,
and the comics and the games all do crawls. But they, I don't know. It seems weird to me, but that's just a weird.
And it's true. They do need it, because it's like, tell me if you guys have had the same experience though. Like when you're the Star Wars guy in your group of friends, everyone always comes to you like, oh, is this movie a sequel to The Last Jedi? And you're the one who has to explain it all. So I was like, can we just have a scroll so that I don't have to explain that every time?
I had to explain why Batman couldn't show up in Infinity War to somebody the other day, and yeah.
What Infinity Wars, there's like, where's Superman?
And I'm like, I'd rather you ask where Wolverine is, 'cause that's far more complicated right now. Because apparently Comcast has Fox, and I'm like, oof, that's Universal gets it. Anyways, sorry. Back to Solo.
So the Solo a Star Wars story. I'd say the first 1/3 of it, I was like, I got a problem here. I'm actually kind of enjoying this. The first 1/3. And then, of course, but that first 1/3 was pretty good, and I was really surprised with Aldrin Ehrenreichson. How do you pronounce his name?
Aldrin Ehrenreich.
Yeah, he was actually really good.
Oh yeah,
I was really impressed.
He's great, and he's the best part of a very bad movie called Hail Caesar. He's easily the best part of that movie.
I tell you what, those trailers did not do him any favors, because his acting looked terrible in those trailers. But when you watch those scenes in the movie, I'm like, it makes more sense why he's being weird in those scenes. But they cut that trailer together in a weird way. He didn't look good, and all the rumors about how terrible he was. No, I thought he was pretty good. He was pretty good.
There were some moments like when he's holding the blaster one-handed and shooting, and when he says certain lines, I completely saw a young Harrison Ford in him.
Yeah,
not
me
literally.
too.
That would be another 30-second ejaculation joke. But I still, he made the part his own.
He's making the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
I love Connor Phillips.
Lando comes in and says, "All over my cake."
I'm honestly surprised Trey is passionately defending Solo. God.
And Han's just like, I know.
But yeah, I think the whole cast was good. I liked Woody. I think this is kind of the perfect role for Woody Harrelson to play in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
Donald Glover
he's just
Lando
him.
is kind of perfect.
I do like that the internet is now calling Donald Glover Dong Lover. Yes, fits with his pansexuality.
But Paul Bettany is not exactly an original villain by any stretch, but he feels unique in the Star Wars universe.
Really, you think so?
He's, in terms of like the broad spectrum of films and sci-fi, he's not an original villain. But in terms of Star Wars, it's kind of that whole, I'm kind of as suave as I believe myself to be, but I'm also a bit psychotic. That's, I think in the Star Wars universe, that feels a bit unique, if that makes sense. Not in terms of just general film, but
I thought he was fine. I thought he was fine, but I was like, his character is basically just a placeholder until he gets replaced. So I was like, it's fine. He doesn't have to.
He literally was a placeholder, because Michael K. Williams was originally cast, and then when Ron Howard took over, he wasn't able to make the reshoot, so they had to cast Paul Bettany. So all of those scenes with Paul Bettany were done by Ron Howard, and apparently when Ron Howard was announced to take over directing, Paul Bettany just texted him, because they'd worked together in the past, I think, or they've got mutual friends. Paul Bettany just text messaged him saying, what does a man have to do to get in a Star Wars movie? And then Ron Howard said, give me 2 days. And then he got a call a few days later saying, congratulations.
I swear to God, Trilbee, if something happens and you get famous and I hear that you're directing something, expect me a message you being like, so what does man have to do to be in an Avengers movie? You know what I'm saying? And then if you say nothing
give me
at all,
2 days.
Then you just never get back to me. I'll be so angry.
Yeah, then I just send you a script with a generic horror, and it's like, Trey, you're the one who dies first.
Well, if you ever become famous, Trilbee, and make a movie, I can just lie and say, see that guy in the background? That's me, and no one will know the difference. You know?
That's probably when I tweet out a picture. I'm like, no, he looks like this.
You have a picture of me? No.
That weird cat man in the background? No, that's not Bandit. No, that's not him. I know 2 cat guys.
Oh, speaking of which, thank you to regular to the show Selver, what have you.
I read Hulk Palooza's comment in the chat. Trey's gonna get Weinstein by Trilbee.
He's gonna be on my casting couch.
Right, But sorry for a sidetrack, guys. But when you said cat, it just reminded me. So thank you to Colin, regular listener to our show, because after you remember last week's live stream, for some reason I talked about Minecraft, and everyone said you should make a Minecraft video just for a joke. Yeah, well, I did.
It was good.
Yeah, and it was very funny looking at the comment section. You could see who listens to the live stream and who doesn't, because everyone who listens to the live stream are like, wow, he actually did it. And everyone else is like, what the hell?
I've not seen that video yet.
One guy was just like, never do this again. But anyway, the reason I bring that up is because when you said cat, it reminded me of Colin. He actually sent me a Minecraft skin of my cat avatar that I can use if I'm going to make any more. So I might actually make a separate channel just for the hell of it.
If anyone wants to make a Minecraft skin out of me, that'd be great. I mean, my skin's currently Black Batman, so it's just something that happens. What? I don't still play Minecraft. What? Who said that? I love Minecraft, by the way. So watching you it was kind of like my inner nerd was getting it. I got to nerd out about a Bandit video for the first time in like 2 years because I'm like, Bandit's playing Minecraft. It was really exciting. So I didn't know about that in the live stream. So I just thought you were just starting a Let's Play channel. I got really excited.
No. Whoa, we got a whole bunch of Japanese comments. Whoa, what's up with that? I don't know. Maybe there's a bots or something.
Maybe someone speaks Japanese that listens to our show. Don't know why they wouldn't comment in English, but whatever.
Yes, that's all right. That's okay. So anyway, back to Solo, a Star Wars story. Gee, what else is there to say about it? I mean, it ruins Lando and it ruins the Millennium Falcon as well.
I don't think it ruins them. It's because like I think Lando leaves this film like basically unscathed. But although like Donald Glover's really great in the role, but as for the Millennium Falcon, like it was just sort of okay, so that's why it's shaped that way. That's why this and that. It's kind of stuff like cool, so that's something, and then it like where did Han get his blaster from? Oh, this guy. Oh, where did he get his coat from?
Sorry to cut you off, Trilbee, but I just got to duck out. I'll be right back in like 5 minutes, guys. Okay, sorry. I'll be right back.
God's sake, Bandit.
Right, now that Bandit's gone, let's have an intellectual conversation. That was a joke. Trilbee, I do want to ask you something because I haven't seen the film. So do you feel like there was a disconnect because of the fact that Lord Miller shot most of the movie, then it was all essentially reshot by Ron Howard?
Well, for what it's worth, while the film is not incredibly spectacular or that impressive, it doesn't feel like a cobbled together mess.
Okay, so it's not as hobbled together as something like Rogue One might feel, where you can definitely feel the little slog because of it.
For Ron Howard, I personally didn't feel it, but I think the more apt comparison might be, say, Justice League, where you can tell what was done by Joss Whedon and what was done by Zack Snyder. You can actively tell which scenes were reshot. And like for Fant Four Stick, you can tell which scenes were reshot because of Kate Mara's horrible strawberry blonde wig. Yes. But whereas with Solo, you can't tell what's been reshot unless you know, Paul Bettany was only there for the Ron Howard reshoots, and like unless you already know stuff like that, you can't really tell what's been reshot, what's original. I imagine most of the Lord and Miller stuff that has stayed put in the film would be the action scenes, because those are typically some of the first things you film so that they can be in the trailer. So you can have those money shots, you can have the action scenes in your first trailer. So I think that's probably what most of the Lord and Miller stuff has stayed in, but because those are already done by like a second unit team, or they're already storyboarded and you can't really improvise on those sets because those scenes need to stay put. So there is no sense of a Lord and Miller presence like at all in this film, but it does feel like Ron Howard is the type of director who takes a script and he'll make the best version of that script that he can. But it's still like, this is not an amazing script. Like there was the talk saying that the reason why Lord and Miller left the project, or they were booted from the project, was because they were going off script too much, and that Lawrence Kasdan wrote the best Star Wars script ever and it was amazing and they shouldn't have meddled with it. Whereas if the script that has been written is what Ron Howard has shot and is accurately on screen, it's kind of a okay, like kind of B or C tier Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but with less impressive action.
Okay, so what we're hearing is that they should have let Lord and Miller stay on this project. Do you think that we would have gotten something more attuned to what I guess like a fantastic, like a 90% of Rotten Tomatoes, if you'd say.
It's hard to say, but we'd probably have a more interesting film to talk about.
Yeah.
If the film has wound up really bad, it may have had some fascinating elements to it. We could have had some really weird and offbeat segments and moments that would really be driving the conversation. Where, like, with Lord and Miller, we know that they are, like, we've not seen them do a big budget film like this. Like, we've seen them do buddy cop stuff with the Jump Street films. We've seen them do a high concept meta comedy with the Lego Movie. But for Solo, I would like to see a Lord and Miller, Indiana Jones, swashbuckling Pirates of the Caribbean type adventure movie. I'd like to see them do something like that, and it'd probably be more interesting. Whether or not it would have been better or worse, I have no idea. Because there's no frame of reference for those two directors.
What this kind of ruins is the concept of, because I believe they left the Lego Movie sequel, which I believe they just announced what the title is going to be. But I forget what it was, but it's pretty great.
The second piece, I think.
The second piece,
or the second part.
Yeah, it's like Lego Movie 2, the second one, or something like that. Something funny like that. And I believe they left directing duties on that to, I believe it was to Flash, and then they dropped out of Flash to do this. And now they don't have anything else like they're doing, at least not as far as I know, which kind of upsets me. Like I wish they had their chance to put out this kind of, if not do these big franchise movies, at least give them, like they could still do the Lego Movie sequel.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We'll probably talk about this later when Bandit comes back and we talk about the whole discussion surrounding the film. But it's so weird that it was touted that the Star Wars story films would be the more experimental, offbeat movies in the Star Wars universe, and the episodic films would be like the more straightforward, bare bones Star Wars experience that everybody knows and loves. Yeah, we had The Last Jedi, which is easily the most experimental Star Wars film in the entire franchise's history, with Rian Johnson.
Easily. God, it's a weird movie, but I got it. I love it every time I see it. Like, I love it more and more.
But Rogue One and Solo are the ones where they've had director trouble and they've had to like change things drastically behind the scenes to try and make them more on brand, if that makes sense. And I really like Rogue One. I can't understand why anyone would like that movie. Which is fair. I mean, you can be wrong or you can be right. But no, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I can play Battlefront. Why do I need to watch somebody play Battlefront? No, it's fair. That's fair. For me personally, I really liked Rogue One, but for Solo, I thought it was. Always Bandit back.
I'm back. Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
No, it's okay.
There's some. I had to move my car. There's some guys coming in to chainsaw some trees down, and they needed me to move my car so they could get in the driveway. So,
sir, can you go move your car? Like, yeah, back.
If you don't move it, we'll move it for you.
Someone just commented, "Last Jedi good, ellipses. Trey, you're dead to me, ellipses. Maybe." Thanks, man. I'm losing the chat today, guys. If it makes you feel any better, Trey, I loved The Last Jedi. But me too. Fair enough. But
yeah, so did I initially.
Well, my thing is, I was just telling Trilbee, I'm loving it more and more. Like, I've revisited it a few times, and I like it every time I see it more. I just find new things to appreciate about it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was me and Trey were just talking while you were away about how I think Lord and Miller, you can't tell that this is like a hodgepodge two visions film. It even if it feels underwhelming or like kind of ho-hum, it feels like a consistent vision, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like a jumbled together mess from like that has had these behind the scenes nightmares. But Lord and Miller may have made a more interesting Star Wars movie than Ron Howard did, who's very like by the book, who is very shoot the script and try and make it the best you can. But the script itself is not particularly interesting. Like, there's a couple of decent like character beats, and there's like I think in concept, like the train heist that they do, the monorail heist, I think that's interesting in concept. I think it could have been shot a bit better though. It's something that the film needed maybe more spectacle to compete in the summer movie season, and it's just really not there. Even though the Star Wars universe is a fun universe to inhabit. Like there's the floating yacht which has got this nightclub on it, which like it's just fun to inhabit the Star Wars universe and to see these practical creatures and these suits and these spacecrafts. It's a fun universe that I enjoy visiting. But when this is the 4th Star Wars film in about like 3 or 4 years, the novelty is going to kind of wear off, which is maybe going to, like, we'll talk about later in our discussion surrounding the narrative of the film.
Yes. Yeah, we can talk about that later, and I'll be happy to expose why that is codswallop, to use an Australian term.
Okay.
But
I look forward to it.
But as I was saying before I left off, yeah, I think this ruined Lando for me, because I was like the whole pansexual thing that they brought up before the movie came out, you might not, like, if you didn't know that and you went into this, you were like, yeah, it's okay. But if you're aware of that when you go into this, like, every conversation he has with the droid L3 takes on a whole different meaning. And I'm just going to say it, she's a sex robot. She's a sex robot. That's what his co-pilot is, a sex robot. And he flirts with Han at one point, and I'm like, no. I was like,
are you implying that Lando wasn't that way? Have you seen Empire Strikes Back? Please.
Yeah, it's Billy Dean, mate. Billy Dean. Yeah.
Well, he's
like one of the manliest heterosexual dudes out there, and they've turned him into Mr. Pansexual, who has sex with pretty much everything.
Pansexual.
Deadpool's pretty.
Yeah, maybe, but it just grossed me out, and it ruined the character. And L3 now, oh God, we're not in spoilers, are we? But basically, it ruins the Millennium Falcon now, because L3 is associated with the Millennium Falcon. I hate it. I hate that character L3. They may as well have just called her SJW, because that's all she was. Every single line out of her mouth was something. It was like it took all the worst parts of feminists that everyone hates, and like SJWs and that, and just wrapped them all together. And people online are actually debating about whether she was supposed to be a parody, because she's that bad. Like, if you wanted to make a parody to make fun of this, you'd make someone like her. But I think it was serious with them, because it fits in with all the other crap in the movie.
I honestly, I did like L3, but after seeing K2SO in Rogue One, it did feel like another attempt to try and capture that snarky robot who has a different dynamic with the rest of the crew. So that was kind of my issue with L3. I enjoyed it because I like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who played the droid. And for those of you who don't know, like, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like a big star in the UK in terms of TV. She was kind of the favorite to play the 13th Doctor in Doctor Who before Jodie Whittaker was announced. And it's like a really great comedic talent here. And I thought she was funny. Like, a lot of the lines I enjoyed. I liked the scene with her and Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, of course you'd like them. Because you'd like them, Mr. SJW.
Yes, because he's still getting paid up by Sony, Bandit, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. You're sold out to Disney.
Yeah, I've been cooked by Lando and L3. But I like, obviously, like, there was like the humor with her is polarizing, because she is like a big character, like a lot like K2SO. So not all of the humor landed, but I wouldn't say that she ruined the Millennium Falcon. It was like, for me, the way I saw it, it was just another detail that I didn't need explaining about the ship or anything. It's something that I don't even think really comes up in the original trilogy or in the new line of films in terms of like the Millennium Falcon and its capabilities. So it just felt like, oh, that was a gap I didn't even know existed. It felt like it was kind of filling in gaps that didn't exist, or ones that I wasn't interested in, which kind of takes you which takes you back to the whole who asked for this movie, apart from like Ron Howard, because he likes a paycheck.
And it tries to do the whole thing of the ship made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. They actually kind of ruin that too, because he doesn't make the Kessel Run; he takes a shortcut. That's not a big feat. That's not supposed to be some grand accomplishment. It's like, that's like if I'm like, hey, I beat Usain Bolt in a track sprint. And it's like, no, you just ran across and cut across. That doesn't make you better than Usain Bolt. And like, that's basically what Han did with the Millennium Falcon. He took a shortcut. He didn't make the Kessel Run.
You mean the scoundrel cheated? What a surprise!
Well, I actually would have preferred it.
Maybe.
I would have preferred it if they'd completely botched the Kessel Run. Like they do it like 50 parsecs, or they don't even half of them don't even survive. So that when Han gets to that table in the cantina on Tatooine in A New Hope, he's like, "Oh, you've never heard of the Millennium Falcon? It's a ship made the Kessel Run in
less 12 parsecs."
And he's just obviously trying to impress people to get a job. So like
that would have been great. That would have been much better. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just feels like it's playing it safe in so many regards. Like the way Han gets his blaster is not inventive. The way he meets Chewbacca is not particularly inventive.
It still worked though. I still think it was effective.
Well, I did like the dynamic, the Han and Chewbacca dynamic, and Junos Tomo, who plays like who is in the Chewbacca suit. I think he does really well, and he doesn't exactly get a Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One moment, but we get to see Chewbacca kick ass, and that's something satisfying for long-term fans to watch. I think so.
Yeah, I did actually like. This is why in the first 1/3 I was like, I'm kind of enjoying this, because when Han and Chewie first met and how they kind of become friends, I was like, I'm buying this. I'm buying it. This is believable to me. And so that first 1/3 I really liked.
I also liked it. It's like a very minor spoiler. I liked one of the opening scenes with Han on like the slave planet, and we're going to take you to see what's her name, Midnight Proxima or something. We're going to take you to see Miss Proxima or whatever. And I thought that it would just like be this beautiful femme fatale type thing, but no, it's just a massive slug creature with a female, which I liked. And he's got a rock in his hand. He's like, it's a thermal detonator, and I just activated it. No, that's just a rock, and you made a clicking sound.
I gotta ask, like, what is the whole deal with Star Wars and slavery? They have slavery in almost every movie, and it's like, there's droids in this universe. You don't need to enslave people. It's like, what is going on here? And they have child slavery in so many different movies, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. If you can have robots doing the work, why would you have slaves?
Yeah, it is just an easy way for like many films just to have an underdog narrative and like rising up from like Diamond in the Rough and all that stuff. So yeah, that's one issue of having so many Star Wars movies where slavery is so pronounced in this universe.
Yeah, well, maybe they need to have human slaves because they can't enslave the droids because they've now got droid rights. So you got to go back to human slaves, you know, like in The Last Jedi, those kids who were enslaved looking after those animals. That probably used to be droids doing that, but yeah. With Lando as well. I mean, are we in spoilers now? Can we go spoilers? Or?
I was going to say, Trey, are you okay with spoilers?
I don't care.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, it also kind of ruined Lando from the perspective of, I didn't like that he was cheating at cards. For some reason, that really bothered me. Like, I know he's supposed to be a scoundrel and he double crosses and all that, but I didn't like that he was cheating at cards. I was like, it makes it a lot harder to really kind of think he's lovable now. Did that bother you?
Not really. Like, it was something that I'm like, Lando's past is not something that I'm incredibly invested in. I think Donald Glover pulled it off well, but when it comes to his like characterization, like we know that when he's on Bespin in Empire Strikes Back and he rats them out to the Empire and he's like kind of quick to betray them and then quick to betray the Empire again, that he's not a stranger to being underhanded. Or he's not a stranger to like trying to like play the game. Like he's sort of like the whole hate the game, not the player type thing. So he's just trying to get by. But it kind of didn't betray a character, but it didn't exactly enforce previous traits, if that makes sense. Like, because you're saying this ruined this ruined this, which is fine. It depends on how you view the Star Wars universe. But for me, it was like it's a thing in the movie.
I mean that was a weird moment. I was asking myself that. I was like, why does this bother me so much? But for some reason it did. I can't explain it. But actually, just now that we're in spoilers, we can do Twitter Storm. I'm just gonna get ready. You wanna talk for a bit, Trilbee, while I
Okay. If we're going for spoilers, I'm just trying to think what we should talk about. Just a couple of other elements. I liked Jon Favreau as the four-armed monkey. Although when he starts talking about his retirement, we know he's not long for the film. It is just a lot of cliches.
Do they really do that? Does that really happen? Okay.
Yes. He's talking about retiring and opening up a restaurant or something, and we know, he ain't gonna last.
Did someone at least in the movie say, "Oh yeah, you'll last for a very long time"? And they just look at the camera. That would happen in a Lord and Miller. Like someone would be like, "Well, you're definitely gonna be around for a while," and then they both just look at the camera. That would happen in Lord and Miller, but no, they played straight here.
We've also got Thandie Newton as like Woody Harrelson's wife, who I think she holds herself really well. She's like a really good part of the team, but she is not in the movie for nearly long enough. She kind of gets fridged, and which is not fun. Emilia Clarke is she's surprisingly convincing as a femme fatale, which is clearly what the character of Kiwara is going for. However,
despite how telegraphed it might be that she's gonna turn evil at the end, we're like, yeah, of course, just hurry up and turn evil already. And she's like, go on, I'll be right behind you. And we're like, no, she's not, just turn evil. Sure enough, she turns evil.
And she's got the massive glowing neon sign saying, please ask me about my backstory. And then you ask her, she says, no, I can't tell you. She's that person on Facebook, and you know the ones who say, God. I'm feeling really down, I'm feeling really bad. And then when someone says, what's wrong? Oh, no, I don't want to talk about it.
I hate those people. Yeah. It's like, well, shut up then. Suffer in silence, you.
That's exactly what I say. I'm like, well, then suffer. What do you want me to do? I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm blocking this account because we're not doing this anymore. I'm not a mind reader. I can't help you, and you told me that I wouldn't understand. No. So no, piss off.
Yeah. Well, when she does do the inevitable betraying, the one surprise of the movie comes in, leading into my Twitter storm, which is Darth Maul is still alive. Yeah, we already knew that. We already knew. He's already in Star Wars Rebels. We already knew that. He's got the robot legs. He has a really great story. But I was still surprised to see him. I was like, oh.
But so here's my thing about that, because this is in the 5 minutes of the movie that I've seen. All right, so here's my thing, right? I don't have an issue with Maul being there. I think that's awesome. I think that's cool. Who's that supposed to be for? If it's for the Star Wars fans, then I would imagine by the time you see the leg, you know that it's Maul. I feel like I can imagine people in the audience being like, oh, "It's Maul," and everyone.
I didn't see it coming. I honestly didn't see it coming.
And then if I may,
go ahead.
Well, when it happens, it's surprising because Maul's there, sure. But I said this before. I think I said that before the show even started. But like, you can have anybody there that you're not expecting it, and that to me is not what makes a good twist. I don't know. That's not what makes a good reveal. I don't know what about that is supposed to be shocking to people. It's like when if suddenly a woman's walking down the street and then suddenly she just explodes. Why is that supposed to be? That's shocking, but it's not suspenseful. It's not a twist. Nothing genuine actually happens. But if the woman's walking down the street and we see that there's a bomb on the side of the road and she's walking towards it, and then as she's walking towards it, maybe she turns the other way, maybe a baby cart rolls by it. Suddenly there's suspense, there's reveals, there's twists, there's turns, and now there's something else happening there as opposed to a woman just exploding. Like Maul showing up is not a reveal. It's just a thing that happens, unless, of course, they set up Maul earlier in the movies. Did that actually happen? I just didn't see it, or what's going on?
Earlier on in the movie, they reference like a criminal gang called the Crimson Dawn or something, or like a gang leader called Crimson Dawn. And I think initially some fans are meant to take to that and say, oh, that could be Darth Maul. And then at the end, they actually reveal, yes, it is Darth Maul. They actually show him on screen. But it's a weird twist because it doesn't affect the plot one iota. It is pure setup or establishing where he is in the universe.
Well, people are saying, oh, I think this is because they're going to make a sequel to Han Solo and they're going to have a little version of the Empire versus the Rebel Alliance and blah blah blah. No, I'm hoping that's not what they're doing, because the one thing that could probably get me back into Star Wars again is if they make a Ben Kenobi movie with Ewan McGregor and Darth Maul shows up in that and they have a rematch. That's what I want. And I
feel like what they did. And
let me finish. I'm about to go to the Twitter storm.
I feel like what they did in Rebels was a beautiful end to Darth Maul's story. I hate that.
That's true.
But I think the Twin Suns episode.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great end. And if that's the fight they're gonna do in the Obi-Wan movie, sure, I'm down for that. Yeah. But I also don't want to see a movie where it's just been Kenobi wandering the desert for 2 hours. It can be good.
Well, that's also the other side of them bringing Maul in, because I was like, oh, I'm surprised to see him, but then I thought, oh no, but are they going to try and erase what happened in Rebels? Because that was great, what happened in Rebels, his story arc in that. So I was like, oh no, they might ruin it. So it's a mixed bag, yeah. But all right, everyone in the chat, here's our mission, right? Whether you're listening on your phone, whether you're on your computer, open up a tab, go to Twitter, go to your Twitter account. I'm going to post in the chat here. There, I'll post in the chat. We should just start calling it the twat. Okay, I posted in the twat.
We're not calling it that. Absolutely not. No.
It's only rude in England. It's okay. It's I posted in the twat a message you could just copy and paste into Twitter at McGregor_Ewan. Obi-Wan versus Maul rematch. Let's make this happen. Hashtag
30-second orgasm.
Star Wars rematch. Hashtag 30-second orgasm. Actually, yeah, if you want to add that, go right ahead.
Don't add that.
So just paste that into Twitter, hit send. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll notice I posted a picture with it. I suppose they could just retweet my tweet, but no, because we want to come back again and do this at least 2 more times before the end of this live stream, because there's not many of us, so we need to do it a couple times to make our presence felt. So everyone, jump on Twitter. There's that message right there. I'm going to jump on Twitter now.
I'm ready. I'm on the Twitter.
All right, fine. I'll do it. I'll stop being the grump. I mean, let's do this. We can make this happen.
There we go. So someone's already retweeted it. So there we go. So Obi-Wan versus Maul rematch. Let's make this happen. Hashtag Star Wars rematch. All right. So I guess that'll be. We might upset people on Twitter who haven't seen with that spoiler alert, but who cares?
I think that tweet is fine on its own, because people have been asking for that rematch for ages.
Yeah, like, how do they know it has anything to do with Han Solo? It might not. It might have something to do with that. All right, so yeah, and after we've done the spoiler section, we'll get everyone to tweet it again.
You ever try to look up Bandit Incorporated on Twitter and accidentally go to Zach Brown Band? That happens to me every time I look up your name on Twitter, Bandit. I get very upset. Sorry, that was just a random thing that happened to me.
Okay, so yes, so anyway, getting back to Solo, a Star Wars story.
Well, for Darth Maul, like, I have no connection to the expanded universe at all. I don't really know anything about it other than a couple of things that I've heard about Rebels. But apparently, it's a really weird connection to have, like, Darth Maul in this film, because apparently it messes up the timeline a lot. It messes up where Darth Maul isn't at this point in the Star Wars universe, where his allegiances are, and it kind of feels like this may be the first big instance of Lucasfilm, Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, and the whole expanded universe not communicating with each other.
What this probably is they knew that this movie needed something in it. Like, I imagine Lord and Miller had a vision for what this movie probably should be, and it probably was one that could have been a franchise. But after the big debacle, and after Ron Howard took over, they needed something to say. Look like they needed a Vader hallway moment, if you will.
They wanted like a big cameo or a big spoiler things that they can say, oh, you better go see it opening weekend so you don't get spoiled.
And I imagine that's what Maul is going to be. And so, I do think, how do I say this? I don't know. Maul being there, it messes with the canon just a hair, because I'm pretty sure he's dead at this point.
Sorry, I'm keeping check of I'm keeping a look at the Star Wars rematch hashtag. Yeah, someone else has posted it. They said hashtag Star Wars rematch, hashtag twatted. Thank you. Thank you, man. So yeah, guys, do that. Go to Twitter, copy and paste that message in. Let's see if we can get this going. But yeah, sorry, go on, Trey.
When is Solo set? I'm curious.
It's set. It doesn't. There's no exact placement, but it is between Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One. It is maybe a couple of years, maybe 5 to 10 years before Rogue One, maybe. roughly. There's no exact time.
Well, because well, I mean that makes sense because he's like what 33 when at the start of New Hope, so he's like in his early 20s here. I mean, you can mess around with the timeline and you can work around it and say that Maul was technically doing this, and you can say, well, this was happening with Maul, this was happening. Is it set 10 years? Sorry, I just looked up in the chat. Is it set 10 years before the Battle of Yavin? Okay, well,
maybe
if that's true. Well, then I mean, you could make some flutzing with the timeline, be like, oh, actually, during this, Maul was doing this. I don't know. It reminds me a lot of in Guardians of the Galaxy when, like, the second time you see Thanos, he's in a hologram. I'm like, but you already revealed him to be in the chair the first time we meet him. So why is him in a hologram? It seems like they should do that in reverse, but I don't know. Yeah. It's weird. It's weird to show him off in a hologram, and it was holograms have color.
And it was so weird that he's like, I'm just going to ignite my lightsaber for no apparent reason. He's like, just because the people in the audience will go, ee! And then he has that creepy line where he's like, we'll be working together much more closely. Hashtag MeTooD2.
Stop.
And just to clarify to the chat, when I say that... but just to clarify to the chat, when I said earlier that it felt like this was like the first time when the expanded universe and the films were not communicating, like this is coming from someone who does not follow the expanded universe at all. It was the first time, in my opinion, that it felt like it was very obvious to the viewer, like the casual viewer who does not follow that stuff. I'm sure there have been inconsistencies before, but this is the first time I personally noticed it.
Well, I mean, before the 10 years became Legends, I mean, it was full of just like nothing really connected with anything. It was all individual stories. And before things became Legends, and they kind of rebooted the canon. But up to that, I think they were doing a decent job.
But like, trust me, I'm a Doctor Who fan. I know all about picking and choosing what is canon and what isn't based on stuff that doesn't make sense and is wildly contradictory.
Well, apparently Coulson's coming back for Captain Marvel, and I'm just like, well, clearly,
what?
You guys didn't know that?
No. Spoiler alert!
Well, I guess they're probably going to reset the universe and bring back everyone. So as well bring back.
Captain Marvel's also set in the 90s, so it makes sense. But like, I don't know, it just seems like
right.
But what you are doing by, I mean, they brought back Coulson a year and a half after he died for so that really takes away all the weight out of the first Avengers movie, which is because Coulson was this kind of connecting glue that beautifully brought the Avengers together. But
yeah,
I mean, all universes are prone for doing stuff like this. It's that comics do that all the time. People get resurrected and all that.
In the chat, You versus Me says, in Rogue One, I've been fighting the Empire since I was 3 years old. ... So you're 13?
Yeah, because the amount of time the Empire are in power between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope is really not well established.
Yeah,
I think it has to be 17 years, isn't it? Because Luke is 17 in A New Hope, and he's born at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So if he's been fighting the Empire since he was 6, he'd be like in his 20s. Wait, are we still talking about Solo? Or are we talking about?
No, that's some solid math, Trey.
Sorry, I'm not particularly great at math.
Oh no, that was genuinely solid math.
Oh, thank you. Math is my kryptonite.
Well, speaking as math, now it's probably time for us to talk about the box office numbers.
Bandit, before we talk box office numbers, I'd like to point out let's look at this strictly because I've seen your videos and I feel like your thought process in terms of how business goes often varies depending on what your opinion on certain things are.
Probably,
and it always bothers me because you're really intent and you're very much set on the reason Star Wars is failing is because the person leading it has a vagina, and I don't want that to ensure. I really want to try to have a discussion about.
I don't think I've ever said that.
And the mistakes. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, and the mistakes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever said anything even close to that, actually. But I'm glad that you agree. I'm glad that you agree that Star Wars is failing now. I remember after The Last Jedi, you guys were like, "Huh, no, it made $1 billion. There's no problem. Nothing to see here,
folks. Going to make a lot of money.
Nothing to see."
We never. I told you Solo wasn't going to make over $1 billion. I tweeted that. Anyways, my point is, I just want, before we talk about the business of Lucasfilm, let's just try to keep it to strictly about business and not about things like class or sex or whatever you like to get into in politics.
No.
Anyways,
well, apart from the whole, because an aspect of this is, fans don't like their criticism being dismissed as sexism. That's part of the aspect of this conversation. So we're going to have to touch on it in that regard.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point. You are right.
Yes. So I know Trilbee's one of my subscribers in the comments linked me to your Facebook page, and you anticipated everything I was going to say. But so you don't think the boycott had anything to do with why the movie's not doing well?
So just to put all of this into context, Solo is projected to make about 84 million during its 3-day opening, and it's a Memorial Day weekend. So it's gonna, and it's 4 days estimated to be 100 million, maybe less, which of course is like The Last Jedi made 220 million in its opening weekend. Rogue One made around 155 in its opening weekend. So this is a substantial step down. And
it's about half.
Roughly, maybe, around that. So when it comes to the actual reasoning for that, it's hard to say if there is like an organized boycott, or if there was like because people did not like The Last Jedi, or they did not like the way that they were treated in terms of that film's backlash, or like they say they had legitimate reasons for disliking that. We do not like being labeled sexist, racist, and all that stuff, all that discourse. If that was I think if that had anything to do with the box office, it was a factor amongst multiple factors, where like the Solo opening in May, whereas the previous films have opened it in December and had next to no competition. This opened in May between Infinity War and Deadpool and The Incredibles 2 and Jurassic World. When you have a film like Solo, which is not like, if you saw the trailers, it didn't look like a big summer spectacle. Like, it obviously had a lot of money behind it, but there just wasn't those awesome, great 30-minute ejaculation money shots. If we were doing film Brits, this is what the episode would be called.
We should name the live stream that 30-minute ejaculation.
There was like it.
We would know. There's no way we get monetized with that. So
that's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah, but, it's not.
But yeah, this summer is particularly competitive. Like, even Deadpool 2, despite getting pretty good reviews and being considered just as good, if not better, than the original.
True. It is very true. That is very competitive.
Yeah,
but if they knew it was going to be. If they knew it was going to be competitive, Trilbee, why did they put Solo up against all these other movies? Because they thought it would do a lot better.
And
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, but you are right. That was their reasoning. They thought, okay, we'll release a Star Wars movie in May the 4th or whatever, and they've got the summer clout. They got too big for their boots, whereas they should have stayed in their lane. They should have stayed in December when they would have had very little competition. And when you have The Last Jedi, which was like one of like last year's biggest film, come out 4 months ago, people may have some semblance, like maybe not Star Wars fatigue, but maybe they're like, oh, we just saw one of these. Like, if this had been in December where there was a 12-month cycle, then maybe more people would have seen it. And it also gives like episode 9 like a bit more room. Like, maybe there's too big of a gap between this and episode 9 now.
All right. Look, let me jump in, because you're bringing up a couple of things. Like,
yeah, cool.
Like you mentioned Star Wars fatigue as well. Again, one of the comments in my to my video, someone said, I've been a Star Wars fan for 47 years. If it was possible to get fatigued with Star Wars, I think it would have happened by now. He said the reason people are not seeing this movie is not because they're tired of Star Wars. It's because they're not very good and the movies are not giving them what they want, plus the whole thing of them being perceived as attacking the fans. And look, I mean, no one's getting Marvel fatigue, and they're putting out more movies. And it's because it's good. No one.
One guy's
you're getting Marvel fatigue.
One guy's getting kind of sick of this.
So the excuse that it's up against big movies, I don't buy that, because it was supposed to compete against big movies. The excuse that it's Star Wars fatigue, I don't buy that, because Star Wars is one of the franchises that real fans never get tired of as long as it's good. So, I mean, I think when you eliminate these things, there's only one explanation, which is...
I was just reading the chat. He's right. Star Wars has been around for 47 years. That's hilarious.
Hasn't it? Oh, that's right. It has been around. Maybe he said 37. Maybe I'm remembering probably wrong. He probably said 37.
Oh, that's
but
Well, those those are fair points. So what I will say for like that commenter who said about if I was going to get Star Wars fatigue, I would have had it by now, which is fair enough for that particular commenter. But when it comes to the average moviegoer who, even though dedicated fan bases do make up a substantial portion of the box office and make up the merchandising and like repeat viewings and DVD and Blu-ray sales, there is still a big reliance on the casual average moviegoer who will maybe only see 2 or 3 movies a year, and that is the audience who will have the Star Wars fatigue. The dedicated Star Wars fan will likely not have the fatigue. They'll have.
Trilbee, if I may ask you a question before
that's a great argument, Trilbee. The ordinary fans have...
I'm going to start talking now. Trilbee, let me ask you a question. What did you think of the movie overall? Like, on a scale of, let me give you good, bad.
We just talked about that.
No. I'm doing a point here. I'm doing a point here. I'm asking, what do you think of the movie overall? I'm building to something here.
It was an okay, unremarkable 3-star film.
Would you say that is the general consensus of the movie?
I'd say so from the discourse I've seen online.
So if you're Joe Schmo Star Wars, like you're just going to go see a movie and you hear that Solo is meh, but you hear that Deadpool 2 is pretty funny, are you not going to go see Deadpool 2 and not see Solo?
Yeah, but probably
word of mouth is important.
Well, if it just had to do with word of mouth or just the trailers, it would easily be Deadpool, because the trailers. This is another factor for the box office. It's like I said, it's numerous factors. The trailers for Solo weren't great. There was the behind the scenes drama. There was all these other there's a lot of factors to consider, and while
I guess I'm saying that when you break it down like to it, it's just a matter of, are people going to go see this movie? Like because the average everyday people are, they're going to see the movie, and I don't think they're going to because they heard it wasn't particularly very good. I heard it was just okay, and I think that plays a huge factor. And I'm agreeing with you, by the way, Trilbee, not you, Bandit, but I think that plays
well, you're actually helping my arguments. So I don't mind.
Well, I don't think like a potential boycott or fan backlash is an insubstantial argument or one that has no merit. I just think that it's making that the focus for why Solo underperformed, or depending on who you like. In China it bombed, but then again, Star Wars has never been big in China. Like the Last Jedi and Force Awakens, they flopped in China as well. So this is just further proof to that. It's not exactly saying, see, even China hates what they're doing. Like they've always like not cared about Star Wars, but like there's just a variety of factors here, and I think
that's true. There is a variety of factors, but these are all symptoms of a problem, but they're not the problem. The problem is that Disney is not giving the fans what they want. Like there's a channel called, I think he's called Alex Becker's channel. He doesn't review movies. He does like business stuff, but he's talked about some of the business stuff with Disney. And he said, look, it's not complicated. He's like, you give your customers a product they want, and you make your customers feel like they matter. And those are the two things that Disney is not doing. There's no way around that, So I think like since The Last Jedi has come up, it's been endless excuses as to why hasn't it done well? Was it up against this movie? Was it this? Was it that? Look, it all comes down to the main thing, which is that they are not doing what the fans want. They are not giving the fans what they want. And I don't think it's really helpful to sort of dismiss the boycott as somehow not important, and instead just allow Disney to keep going la 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 la, just completely ignoring what the numbers say. I mean, there's a problem. You got to address it.
I don't think that the boycott or the fan backlash is not important. I just don't think it's more important than other factors. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, patronize Trilbee. I heard that chuckle. You don't patronize that boy. You're not sick. I heard that.
Well, when it comes
well, clearly Solo has shown that's not the case.
Well, no, Solo has kind of shown, hopefully this is maybe a humbling experience for Disney, and I'm with you in that they should have been way more selective if they were going to be doing a spin-off movie. That where was the demand for a Han Solo movie? There was very little, and them thinking like they could make like basically any experience, or there was a chair in A New Hope, and now that chair, you're gonna get a 90-minute movie about where that chair came from.
I also listen to Mark Commode. Sorry.
Okay, that's true. You can say where.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's true. Yeah,
not going to happen.
Where was the demand for Solo? Nobody really wanted it. On the other hand, where was the demand for The Last Jedi? Very high, yet it still underperformed where they wanted it to.
It made like $1.5 billion.
Yes, but oh my god! See, people keep bringing this up, but they don't understand. It's like
the 9th biggest movie of all time.
Yes, but dude, if you went into a fight against Conor McGregor and it took him 20 minutes to beat you up, it's like, okay, of course he's going to win. He's Conor McGregor. But you're like, but why did it take him 20 minutes to beat him up? Like, he's not performing at the level that he should. Do you understand? Of course Star Wars is going to, like The Last Jedi is going to make $1 billion. It doesn't mean it's performing at the level it should. And like I said previously,
Star Wars not going to make $1 billion probably, so it's not a given, Bandit.
It's making half of Rogue One, like Last Jedi made half of The Force Awakens. If every movie you're making is making half of its predecessor,
stop using Force Awakens as an example. The Force Awakens made over $2 billion. Only the Force Awakens in history have done that, and The Force Awakens is one of them.
Yes, and how much did Last Jedi make? Half that. Well, how much is Episode 9 going to make? Half that again!
For 30 years, people wanted to see The Force Awakens. Like, that was the movie that brought back Star Wars. Of course, it's going to make $2 billion. The sequel's not going to do that because it's not the movie that brought back Star Wars, especially not after Rogue One. Okay. Okay, Trey, but how much did Disney spend to buy Star Wars? $4 billion plus interest. They have not made that back, and it doesn't look like they will. Yes, they have. Soon. They made it all back in merchandise.
$2 billion for the Force Awakens, $1 billion for The Last Jedi. And so we're not there yet.
Well, Rogue One made $1 billion, but that's the point. But
I actually read a news story like around the time Rogue One came out, and apparently Disney had made that money back in terms of merchandising as well as the box office.
Cars made $10 billion in merchandise. You don't think Star Wars did that easily?
Well, technically, they make their money from merchandising by selling it to the stores, but the stores then have to make their money by selling it to the customers, and nobody's really buying these toys. So you'll see that'll drop off as well.
I am going to have to see numbers there. I'm going to need to see receipts because for everything I'm seeing is that the merch has done incredibly well.
Bandit, even if you go by movie gross,
they use the numbers that are sold to the stores, not the numbers that are being sold to the customers. So they're doing a bit of sleight of hand. Exactly. And wait a minute, would Disney do that? Would Disney fudge the numbers? Yes, because remember how they said that pre-sale numbers for Solo were double that of Black Panther? And did you see how many people were tweeting empty movie cinemas? Those pre-sales, they vanished like a British news story about Tommy Robinson, just completely gone. They lied. They lied.
Fandango is owned by Warner Brothers, isn't it?
I love this so much. I love the comments.
What is owned by?
I love it. I love these guys are great.
But yeah, for the Fandango numbers, it gives that if anything, that kind of proves that that pre-sale tickets don't necessarily mean anything, as opposed to like Disney lying or fudging the numbers.
Okay, but you're missing the point. The point is because it does matter in this case because those numbers, those pre-sale numbers, came from Disney, not the whatever the company name is that usually does it. And since then, that company, Grace Randolph pointed this out in her breakdown because she knows all the inside stuff.
Because quoting Grace Randolph will get you so far in life. Sorry, that was.
Well, she understands the business a lot better than any of us do, and she pointed out that since then, that medium company, like when they show projections now, they say this is our sources. We're not getting them from Disney because they know if they say they're getting them from Disney, it's going to be unreliable. Now you can't trust Disney. They lie and they make stuff up.
This is some Alex Jones shit.
It's Turn the Frogs gay.
Turn the Frogs gay.
Disney, I'm lying to you.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the whole sexism thing, but so look, this is
because we don't have to. God, we don't. Let's not.
No, we don't really need to. But like the point is like, yeah, if you have to be honest with the numbers, and you need to realize that the product you're giving to the fans, whether you want to say it's a vocal minority or whatever, the proof is in the pudding. The profits are going down; they're not going up. They're going down with each new movie. So they're making the same mistake that the DCEU made. You remember, like they should have course corrected after Man of Steel. They didn't. They doubled down with Batman v Superman. And that's why Justice League did as poorly as it did. Justice League.
Dare you compare Star Wars: The Last Jedi to Batman versus Superman?
Damn right I am. And this one, Solo is Suicide Squad, and Episode 9 will be Justice League. Mark my words. I'm telling you.
Carlos Angel in the comments says, "Give Star Wars back to Marvel."
Okay,
but I think the chat was really funny because Carlos said, "Yes, Grace Randolph has the best videos," and then immediately afterwards, Nathan Snyder says, "Grace Randolph is really bad."
What I will Bandit. What I will say. Okay, so
thanks for doxing me, Trey. That's really
first of all, it's not your name, but
no, it's not.
What I will say is that you are right in a certain regard in that there is a response, and
Hang on, say that again. I didn't quite hear you.
Oh, Christ Almighty!
Now there's a 30-minute ejaculation.
There's something going on there, and there is a response happening. I don't necessarily think it's as drastic in terms of the saga movies, in terms of the main billion-dollar makers. I think we all think Solo should have made $1 billion. I think we all think that, but a combination of poor trailers and a bad word of mouth has caused it not to do so. And I think, and I said this when Last Jedi came out, I think the real test of this is going to be what Episode 9 comes out, and if that makes bank, and if that's able to pull in $1.5 to $2 billion, I don't think we're going to have the same problem. Now, if Episode 9 comes out and does like Justice League money, or even I guess Solo money, then we can have this conversation differently. But to say that the spin-off film starring Han Solo that didn't get very good trailers and isn't very good is the reason that Disney is failing, do you see what I'm saying here when I'm trying to make this connection?
I know it's the same kind of excuse making that Disney is doing and that you guys did after The Last Jedi. So I can't wait to be Mr. Smug a-hole when Episode 9 comes out and be like, I told you it's Justice League all over again. You know, like, guys, it's like I don't know, like, how much more evidence do you need? I mean, just look at the way the movies are going. They're making less, not more. I mean, I kind of feel like this is like if you guys were taking a shower, but instead of using soap, you're rubbing like a dog turd on yourself. And I'm like, guys, you're rubbing a dog turd on yourself. And you're like, no, it's just a different design of soap, you know? I mean, they can make it. I'm like, no, dude, smell it. It's a dog turd. And you're like, well, you know, soaps have different types of smells. And I'm like, dude, it came out of a dog's butt. And you're like, I'm going to need a sauce on that. I'm going to need it. And I'm like, dude, what else do I need to tell you?
That isn't cool with Lando hitting on Han Solo.
Bandit, if I could offer you some constructive criticism for your argument, your stance on everything. Well, me and Trey have said it before, but I think it is worth repeating. The Force Awakens was a huge box office anomaly, and I think comparing and yes, it is a demonstrable fact that The Last Jedi made substantially less than The Force Awakens. That is true. But The Force Awakens was a complete box office anomaly that very few, not many people saw that making, they knew it would be a big success. They knew that The Force Awakens would make a lot of money. But considering how, relatively speaking, the Revenge of the Sith did not, it didn't even make a third of what The Force Awakens did. That was just a lightning in a bottle box office smash juggernaut hit of a product.
I agree with you.
But I think comparing The Last Jedi to that and seeing such a steep drop off and saying that yes, it's failing, or you can see it floundering from that, I think that's a slight illegitimate way to look at it. If that makes my words are very terrible. I'm very tired. But
I think sense. Sure, I understand, and I think the difference in how you view this and how I view this is it sounds like you're looking at the box office for each one and judging it on its own right, whereas I'm looking at sort of the lead up and the flow on after the events, after the movies themselves, like the build up for Force Awakens, the excitement, the enthusiasm, and the build up for Force Awakens is what made it so successful, and the flow down to The Last Jedi was because of the division after that, and the anger after The Last Jedi has flowed over onto Solo. So it's like you can't really take these movies on their own and just say this was really good, this one was not as much. I'm explaining it right now.
How do you explain Rogue One making less money than The Last Jedi then?
making less money than Last Jedi.
Because Rogue One made less money than The Last Jedi did. I mean, I'm almost certain of that. Like,
yeah, well, of course, because it wasn't part of the trilogy. I mean, that's
wait. So you're applying context in terms of what's happening outside and the movie release schedule to what's happening profits. We're looking at just the money right now. Are we? That's what we're trying to apply here. So you're saying that if The Last Jedi made more money than Rogue One, then would you say that Disney did not have a success with The Last Jedi then, because it made more money than the last one that came before it?
Well, not really, because, well, first of all, we're not talking about how much money they made. We're talking about why they made the money that they made. And I don't think it's fair to view Rogue One.
Can you say that last bit again?
Well, we're not really talking about just what money it made. We're talking about why they made the amount of money, or the lack of money in this case, that they made.
So why did Episode 7 make so much money?
Episode 7, The Force Awakens, because, as I just said, there was like the build-up and all the enthusiasm for it. That has been diminishing ever since there. So my point in saying that, guys, is like this is what I'm saying, is like the current it's pushing this downstream, not upstream. So for them to like change direction, they're going to actually need to acknowledge that there's an issue first. And that's why I don't think dismissing the boycott as just nerds online or making excuses for all these other things, I don't think it's particularly helpful. We gotta help Disney steer the ship in a more productive direction, and they're not going to do that as long as you guys, because I know Kathleen Kennedy is personally listening, as long as you guys continue to make excuses for them.
Well, I'm not making it because, like I said, I can't deny the numbers for Solo, and I'm trying to look at all the other factors around it's failing at the box office or it's floundering at the box office.
And that's true, but
outside of this like boycott reasoning, because I think there's just so many other factors to consider that Disney will have to look at in the future.
But all those other factors, yes, I agree with you. But all those other factors make up the big picture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in terms of just like Disney's like business management on this particular film, and we'll have to see for Episode 9 if its failings on this particular film and also The Last Jedi are really going to hold water. We're not really this like Solo cannot be brought up as this shining example for Disney and Lucasfilm's failings, because it is in its own way just like it is a spin-off film that nobody was asking for, with rather poor marketing and a questionable release date, with lots of behind-the-scenes drama. We won't if we're still having this discussion with Episode 9, then yeah, maybe you were right and you got a point, and we can start looking at that perspective a lot more. But as for Solo, I don't think this is like the case in point, case closed, shining example for Disney's failings and their hubris. I think maybe for Episode 9 that would be the case.
Okay, well, let's just think this through. Okay, so The Last Jedi
it is 4 in the morning. I can't do much thinking.
But that's okay. The Last Jedi. Hang on, let me finish. So The Last Jedi made half of The Force Awakens. Do you think there was a lot of hate and vitriol before The Last Jedi as comparison to after it? Like the feeling amongst the fans leading into The Last Jedi, do you think there was hatred, or do you think people were like, got some problems, let's see what they do? Which do you think it was, Trilbee?
There was definitely a lot more positivity
right.
and hype.
Okay.
Although there was
now
your classic pedantic people who were like, "Oh, Force Awakens, this, that, and the other." Yeah,
sure. So now, after The Last Jedi, would you say the feeling amongst the fans is more hate-filled, vitriolic than it was before The Last Jedi?
Yes, and it makes me very sad.
Okay. So if The Last Jedi can make half of what The Force Awakens did, even though the atmosphere was much more positive, then how much more so would Episode 9 totally bomb, because the vibe is totally vitriolic and hate-filled now?
But it's kind of because I spend so much time online and on it's a fair point. But because I spend so much time on Twitter and in the like movie discourse and everything, I'm like so exposed to this whole like aspect of like the Star Wars discourse and movie discussion and everything. Whether or not that genuinely bleeds out to the average moviegoer will depend on the box office for Episode 9, or whether or not maybe like, because it's like Last Jedi is so immediate, and because it is like so recent, it was only a couple of months ago, when the marketing for Episode 9 comes along and everyone's like, oh, J.J. Abrams, this looks more like Force Awakens than Last Jedi, this is like kind of the Star Wars that we wanted. Like the marketing campaign is going to be very different, I think, for Episode 9 than it was for Episode 8. and that's going to influence the box office, or at least it will influence the opening weekend. It will be the discussion and everything surrounding the film's merits on its own that will determine weekend 2, weekend 3, etc.
Bandit, if I may, what is it? Because I feel like we should start ending the discussion here and start getting to listener questions.
Yeah, we should wrap it up. Yeah.
So if
there's only one last thing I want to talk about.
Sorry, go ahead. What do you see? Like, if you were in charge, if you became the Kevin Feige here, what exactly would you do differently?
Well, for one thing, first thing I would do is I would not blame the fans for not liking your movies, and I would not attack the fans, accusing them of being racist and sexist for having legitimate criticism. First of all, I would not do that. Secondly, I would actually pay attention to what the fans were saying after The Force Awakens in regards to Rey needs a good explanation of her parents, we need a good explanation for why Luke is hiding on an island, etc., etc. Basically, I would just listen to the fans and then try to give them what I thought they wanted.
So you don't think that the Last Jedi you don't think the Last Jedi being a and this will be a quick point, you don't think the Last Jedi being kind of a different kind of altering shift of the universe, you don't think that was, because I feel like the biggest complaint coming out of The Force Awakens easily was that it was far too derivative of A New Hope and the original trilogy as a whole.
Yeah.
So you don't think that Disney said, okay, well, let's do something different thing, and Rian Johnson's going to make a different kind of Star Wars movie, this really weird, more obscure, different movie, and you don't think that Disney responded in that sense?
Yeah, in the fact that it moved away and gave us something unexpected. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, whatever their original intention is in making The Last Jedi so subversive, they have to acknowledge, at the end of the day, they have to acknowledge the fact that it's on a downward slope now. Whatever they intended to do, it did not connect with a substantial portion of the Star Wars fans, which I think the low numbers of Solo show you do need. And that was the last thing I wanted to bring up before we move on, which is, I know I talk about this all the time, so I'm not going to rant on it for too long, but I really do think we need to rethink this attitude of dismissing the online audience, of going, they're just trolls, they don't really matter. Not just because of the reason I brought up of that they consume Star Wars at a higher rate, so they attribute more of the profit margin, but also I think because while the internet overreacts to a lot of stuff, the internet can kind of be like the canary in the coal mine. You know, that like if you pay attention to what the internet's doing, even though the internet might make things out worse than they are, it still gives you an idea. It's like the canary in the coal mine. It gives you a warning of danger areas to steer away from. And I think, like, I can understand, like, in Hollywood, they would get sick of it because they'd get constant barrage from the internet all the time. But I don't think dismissing the online criticism and the online reaction is a good way to go, because even though us hardcore Star Wars fans, we're just the tip of the spear, there's still the rest of the spear coming after it. And we do direct the way that Star Wars goes in terms of where it succeeds and where it doesn't. And I say, is this movie worth seeing or not? So it's like, I think they've made a serious error in disrespecting, or perceivably, because I know you're going to say they probably haven't, but perceivably disrespecting the fans. And I do think they need to get the hardcore fans back on board for whatever they do next. Otherwise, it'll just, the downward trend that we've seen will just continue. So anyway, that's my last thing I want to say.
If I could retort on one particular aspect of the argument, when you're saying disrespecting the fans, and you brought up that J.J. Abrams interview in your video about J.J. Abrams has no tolerance for people who take an issue with the women in Star Wars. It's something like that. Yeah. I think this is something akin to, I'm gonna use a trigger word for many people, the Ghostbusters reboot. I know. I'm gonna disable the chat. No, but it's I think when J.J. Abrams or when other people involved in the industry and everything say make comments like that, I think they're calling out people who make a alternative cut of The Last Jedi that removes almost all of the women. I think they're talking about that sort of backlash as opposed to fans with legitimate criticisms. Because I love The Last Jedi, but I will also say that it's awkwardly structured, that the Canto Bite sequence goes on for way too long. There's there's quite a few issues there. So I think that Disney need to like know which criticisms to listen to. When people say, "Oh, it's all the women in Star Wars," and there's all, and what's her name, Rose, she's just there to appeal to the Chinese audience, even though she's Vietnamese. Like they need to actually be able to like listen to all of the criticism, but also know which ones to genuinely focus on. Like, because there's the ones who are like, "Oh, we will remove all of the women from The Last Jedi." You don't listen to those. You don't listen to those people.
That's true. I agree with you, but they're listening to the other extreme, which is like, let's bring in droid rights. Let's have a female character who's way better than everyone else, even though she's been through no training. Let's make every single white male either a villain, a coward, or an incompetent moron.
We've talked about the Mary Sue thing. I don't know, maybe we're still
all right. But the point is, it's like, yeah, you're saying they shouldn't listen to this extreme on the internet. And I'm like, yes, that's true. But they also shouldn't listen to the other extreme, which is what they're doing. Like, there's a middle ground there you got to find, guys. And like an easy solution is just get rid of politics out of Star Wars. It shouldn't be in there anyway. It doesn't belong in Star Wars.
I think it's
always been there. It's an allegory for Vietnam. Obi-Wan is a Vietnam vet. The Empire is a Nazi allegory. It's always been there.
Yes, but it's not beating you over the head with this annoying agenda.
It's a sore spot for me when people say get politics out of my media. It's always there.
To an extent, yeah. No, because all art form is a reflection. Yes, that's true.
Because the X-Men's a very blatant allegory for oppression in America. Do you mean to the point of where Professor X and Charles Xavier or Malcolm X and
even Deadpool says you're a dated reference to the civil rights?
Yes,
that's true.
But like, I know. It's all like everything is political because people are political and media is made by people. And like even Star Wars, incredibly political movie. Like obviously it's all dressed up in genre trappings and space and lasers and all this stuff, but it's a very like political allegory for the Vietnam War. And it's just it's always there, and it's at the core of Star Wars. So when you say get politics out of Star Wars, what I think you mean is get like a specific type of politics out of Star Wars, and it's politics that certain people on the internet or certain people of the fandom either don't agree with, because you never have people say get politics that I agree with out of media. What they mean to say is politics that I don't talk or that I don't want in media, or politics that I take umbrage with. I don't want that in media. And those who say,
"Oh my god,"
sorry. Also, people who say most people don't like SJW politics. SJW politics for many people means not Nazis. That's SJW politics to many people, and that is the sort of discourse that is surrounding like moviedom at the moment, because it's why what you're saying, Bandit. There are extremes on both sides, absolutely, but it's just a complete weird hodgepodge of people who you get people who are kind of getting into that phase of like talking about movies and learning about movies, who are just sort of learning the hard way now that everything that they listen to and consume has some sort of political agenda, whether it is overt or subtext or just text. It's there. And that is kind of what makes media and entertainment interesting. That is the lifeblood of media, whether it's comics or books or film or bloody cave paintings. It's there. And sometimes it's not subtle. And with that, for example, The Last Jedi, I think the politics in that film is actually a love letter to Star Wars fans, because you do get like Luke Skywalker, who is like once again the Vietnam vet, or like potential like Middle East vet, or whatever you want to say. And he's saying that the Jedi were this, and that the legacy of Star Wars is flawed and tainted. But Rey is like, no, I'm a massive, huge Star Wars fan. The reason I'm able to do these things so well is because I've been growing up on these stories, these Star Wars stories of Luke, Han, and Leia, and everything. I've completely absorbed this. We find her in a downed AT-AT with a helmet on. She's got Star Wars toys in her home on the desert planet.
Nostalgia goggles, yes.
Yeah, basically. And the Last Jedi is on Rey's side. It's there's a whole meta narrative to The Last Jedi that I think many people either don't want to pick up or they just are not wanting to acknowledge or maybe misinterpreting, which is maybe a flaw of the film itself. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Just pasting a question from the chat. Yeah, look, I mean, that's an eloquent, well-worded response there, Trilbee, as most of your
completely wrong.
As most of your stuff is. No, I don't disagree with a lot of it. I could nitpick with certain points, but I'd say, okay, that's a well-worded response, Trey. How's it working out of the box office?
Ask me at episode 9 because Solo is not.
How many movies do you need to underperform before you realize this is not a good direction?
Last Jedi didn't underperform, but Solo absolutely did. But Solo is not an episodic film. It is not a December release. I'm willing to listen to everything.
More excuses.
More facts. What do you mean excuse? You know what? Okay.
It's not an excuse. I'm not going to compare Solo to Last Jedi. Like, we shouldn't compare Rogue One to Episode 7.
So you don't think Disney is doing anything wrong? You just think they're unlucky. It's just a series of unfortunate circumstances. It's got nothing to do with the actual product they're putting out.
I never said that. I said earlier that they shouldn't have released it in May, that they got too big for their boots, they got too cocky, they got too arrogant and saying we can compete in the summer blockbuster season against our own movies, Incredibles, Avengers. And with Solo, they've proven to themselves that at least with a spin-off movie, they can't do that. Or if they're going to do it again, they need to be much more selective with the material they do. It won't be Han Solo. Then Han Solo is not getting a second film after these results. If they're going to release another film in the summer, it will be a proper episodic film, which they probably might not even do because December owns. They're going to own December. And Solo's going to lose money because they put so much into the reshoots. If you look on Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia is not a great source, but it says with an estimated budget of at least $250 million, it is one of the most expensive movies ever made. Han Solo should not be one of the most expensive movies ever made. Disney is not beyond criticism with how they handled Solo. And while you were gone to talk to your chainsaw men outside, me and Trey were talking about...
they still haven't arrived yet for some reason. They're about an hour late. Me and
Trey were talking about how it's so weird that the spin-off movies were meant to be these experimental, different projects, and the episodic films were meant to be the more standard Star Wars that we all love. Yet Rian Johnson's Last Jedi was much more experimental and different and so much more divisive, whereas Rogue One and Solo have had director issues because they've had to try and get them in line, and they've had all this behind the scenes drama because they want to make it more like Star Wars. Disney are mismanaging the franchise to an extent, and they are not beyond criticism, I think. But saying stuff like there's too much politics in Star Wars or everything, I think that's just the wrong way to look at it. Or like it is a way to look at it, but there's a whole broader spectrum here.
Okay, well, I guess we'll see with episode 9 then.
We will see with episode 9, and if episode 9 completely flops, then I'll agree with you. I will say, yeah, maybe they did handle it wrong. I just think Solo is not the be all end all. Like, sure. It's not the final result.
Well, I'm just going off the facts of how the movies are slowly going downhill, and there's no sign of them changing direction. So I'm just calculating the most likely probability.
More money than Rogue One.
But,
yeah, and if you keep making half the money with each movie, it's not a sustainable pattern.
But Bandit didn't make half the money of Rogue One and made more.
But Bandit, I'll let you.
You keep comparing Last Jedi to Rogue One because Rogue One is not part of the main trilogy.
But you keep saying rather dishonest. He's failing, but Solo's not part of the main trilogy either.
I never compared Solo to The Last Jedi. I compared Solo to Rogue One because they are equivalents. I compared The Last Jedi to Force Awakens because they're equivalents. I don't do it the other way around like you.
To be fair, what Bandit said was that like Solo made roughly around half that Rogue One did in its opening weekend. So I get the point there. But like Bandit, I'll let you have this. If like December 2019, when episode 9 comes out, if it makes similar numbers to Solo or substantially less than The Last Jedi, then you can lord this episode all over me, and I will say, Bandit, you know what? You were probably right or like depending on the context of the time, whatever. And I'll agree and I'll listen and all of that stuff. But as for now, I think that we need to like wait for episode 9 before truly judging. Like it'll be the fruits of their labor, whether or not the harvest is ripe, whatever. But Solo, disappointment. Very. The film itself is not that notable to talk about. And
I think that's true. Yeah,
and it will it'll be interesting to see how much it drops in its second weekend. That will be interesting. It's not gonna like make up its takings like over the next few weeks. Summer is way too competitive. It's not gonna happen. I just think there'll be interesting numbers to look at.
Yeah. Well, at least with episode 9, we know what the story is going to be. It's going to be a remake of Return of the Jedi, because that's what J.J. Abrams does. He remakes things.
He walks as far as the eye can see. You versus me put similar numbers to Solo.
No, so the Ewoks, it'll be Porgs. A planet of Porgs defeats the Empire, you know?
That's too close to Last Jedi. It'll be whatever those things are, and all the puppets from Force Awakens.
Yeah. So for all of you out there who are with me with the boycott, I say, keep it up, guys. Keep it up. Let Disney know we're not going to tolerate with being treated like this. They need to treat us with a little bit of respect if they want our money. And honestly, like if Ewan McGregor came back for Kenobi, I'd spend money on that. And if JJ is a little bit more reasonable in the way he treats fans, I'd be happy to spend my money on Star Wars again. But as it stands right now, no, they don't want my money, and I don't want to give them my money. So, okay. Well, I've got a lot of questions here saved for listener questions, guys.
I know people were wanting us to move on to the next topic, but to be fair, rambling.
I'd like to ask you a few questions. All right, this is the question portion of the show, in which case we answer listener questions.
To be fair, I was going to say us rambling has given people plenty of time to post questions.
Yes, that's right.
It was like we planned it.
People were getting frustrated. That was nice. That was nice to get frustrated. Bandit, if I may say something, this is about the listener questions now. We don't have to answer every single one. In fact, I'd like to not answer every single question, because some of them are going to be mundane, and I'll be honest with you, kind of lame.
We also need to find the super chats first.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to be able to answer everyone, so that's okay. If you guys got to go, I'll just push through the last of the questions at the end there. All right, so super chats. Open a new window.
So I'm trying, like mine's.
Oh, there's quite a few super chats there.
I know,
Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it very much.
I can't go be back in the live chat more than about 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm not able to see the super chats, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll read him out. So first of all, Sam Heinrich gave us $25 dues. Thank you so much, Sam. And he asked, "Is Star Wars bleeped?" He said, "When I saw episode 8, I actually was hyped. Now that I got the movie, I haven't watched it but one time since the theaters. If the Kenobi movie, God, my microphone's in the way. I gotta. If the Kenobi movie that has been pushed, God, hang on, let me move this. This isn't working. I had to move my setup today, and I'm much further away from the computer screen as I normally am, so my eyes are struggling to read. Okay, so is Star Wars bleeped? When I first saw episode 8, I actually was hyped, but now that I got the movie, I haven't watched it but one time since the theaters. If the Kenobi movie that has been pushed for comes out, what do you want to see? Okay, so first of all, is Star Wars bleeped? I think it is. And if Kenobi comes out, what do you want to see? I want to see him versus Maul. I want to see him chopping lots of sand people up, those filthy, filthy sand people. They deserve to be chopped up.
Wow.
Well, what do you guys want?
The children too.
They were animals, so I slaughtered them like animals.
I think to
be angry is to be human.
I think the Han Solo franchise is definitely bleeped, and making like Star Wars story spin-off movies based around singular characters from the original trilogy are also bleeped.
Well, you guys can swear, but I don't swear. But you guys can swear if you want to.
I think
Did you see him in Deadpool too? Someone in the comment section was like, he had that line where Deadpool say to Cable, he's like, yeah, say the F-bomb with me just once. Come on, we'll say it together. He was like saying that to me. I was like, nope, not doing it.
It's but yeah, I think certain branches of like the Star Wars franchise that Lucasfilm were obviously wanting to develop
Bandit,
in the
what
future,
are you kind of swearing?
they're not happening.
Huh?
I'm curious. What are you kind of swearing? I know this is a huge side tangent, but this podcast is nothing but a series of tangents. So, what do you count as a swear word? Because you drop damn and bitch all the time, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought it through.
Yeah, is it just fuck? Is that just your limit?
I guess I just go with TV rules. You know,
You go by TV rules. I go by HBO rules. Nothing off limits. Yes.
Yeah. I just don't swear as a general practice. Plus, because my nephew's and that watch his channel, and I just don't swear as a general practice.
Oh well, I apologize to Bandit's nephew. That's my fucking bad. I'm sorry.
That's all right. As long as my mouth is clean, I'm all right.
That's what she said.
So sorry for the third time. Let's try again. Trilbee, is Star Wars bleeped?
What are the 7 words that George Carlin said you can't say on TV?
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. Sorry. I love George Carlin.
Nice. Thank you.
Really?
Thank you for clarifying. But yeah, like I said, those like branches that Star Wars wanted to like further like explore, they're bleeped. They're fucked. They're not happening. But as for like the episodic ones, like I said, it is going to wait until at the episode 9 box office, which like it will depend on the marketing. It will depend on the reviews and the family. There's a lot riding on episode 9, and Disney are now keenly aware of that, which is definitely like that's where the main influence of like the box office and the fan reaction is going to be, in how they market and approach episode 9 in future. So and what was the other bit of the question was about an Obi-Wan.
In a Kenobi movie, what would you guys like to see?
Unforgiven, but Star Wars.
Yes,
which is basically like, you know,
go off planet.
Logan.
I want to see him leave Tatooine. And just, I think we talked about this before, but just because I guess we all know what would happen. Like, they would just do Logan or Unforgiven, but with Obi-Wan, and I think we all know what that's going to look like. And I guess I'd like to see them do something with it that we would not necessarily see coming. And so, you know, the Obi-Wan comics all follow him on Tatooine. You know, there have been plenty of fan trailers where it's just him wandering the desert, and I'm not denying that it probably wouldn't be a good movie. I'm not denying that Ewan McGregor wouldn't kill it as a performance. I wouldn't even deny that they'd probably bring back Maul and just recreate the scene from Rebels, which I'm totally down for. But I would love to see him do something else off of Tatooine.
You know what would be good is, like, since Disney's struggling a bit, like, they should just pick like an expanded universe story of Kenobi that's really popular and people really like. Just do that. Just do what you know works.
It's easy to say that, but let's remember that Disney with the Marvel Cinematic Universe have found great success with like taking the very bare bones elements of like the Winter Soldier or Civil War and making a lot of money and critically acclaimed like fan beloved films out of that. So I think maybe if they took an expanded universe premise, as opposed to like the full nuts and bolts, rip dialogue straight out of the book, that might be the approach they take, like they do with the Marvel films.
Well, Marvel, Disney does the Marvel comics out of necessity, because they like, the reason they couldn't do Civil War is because they like the way Civil War is, because they don't have access to those characters. Like, if they did what the Winter Soldier verbatim, it'd be a very weird movie. It wouldn't necessarily fit the tone of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at that time. So I can understand why. But with Star Wars, you can go weirder. You can just tell a Kenobi story and not have to worry about, oh, is this weird? Can we afford this, or can we match this tone? Can we have these many characters be in the story?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sam Heinrich had 2 other donations. He sent us $10. Thank you, Sam. You're very generous.
Thank you very much.
The dollar dues. He said. Is $10 donation. He said, last question, should there be a Vader film, first villain film? I feel like the persona Vader has needs establishment as to why he is most feared in the galaxy at the time, as long as Kathleen doesn't screw it up. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like the hallway scene in Rogue One, that's pretty much the only time that we've really seen Vader at full power, really kicking ass.
Yes.
Like, I was hoping we'd get a lot more of that in the prequels, but we kind of didn't. So
could
they fit one in? I don't know.
And there's an aspect of the Vader comic book that they did where he has kind of not necessarily an apprentice, but someone by his side, and I think something more attuned to that, something like maybe like the Force Unleashed, where you have this surrogate character that we follow, and we're getting to be told an aspect of Vader's story more or less through that character, because Vader himself is a very sad guy that I don't think necessarily would work to follow as a main character, as a protagonist, but to be a driving force, what I think would be a very interesting thing that we could see be kind of the backbone, kind of like what they tried to do with Rogue One, but not necessarily, like have him be one of the main characters in the story, but not our protagonist. That could easily work.
If you were gonna do a Darth Vader like movie where he has to be the driving force and push the plot forward, you probably do an adaptation of that. I think it's called The Ghost Prison, where Darth Vader like crash lands on a prison planet and he has to escape. And it's basically, by the sounds of it, I've not read the comic line, but it sounds like Dredd, but instead of Judge Dredd, it's Darth Vader. And because we already know everything that like we know what motivates him, we know that he wants to do, why he's so sad, we know all of this stuff, so we can't really have a Darth Vader movie that's driven on emotion and his character motivations and everything. We need a film that is driven by his actions and why he's so feared and why he's such a badass and his relationship with the Emperor. And I think doing something like bare bones, like The Raid or like Dredd or whatever, would be a really novel approach.
There is a pretty good story which sort of shows in between A New Hope and Empire how he figured out the guy who blew up the Death Star was his son. And I haven't read it, but I hear it's very good. And, you know, I think if they could set it during the Empire rule period, because you got to remember, Ian McDermott's still around. He's still alive. He's still kicking. He's still doing the whole thing. It's like, maybe we should use him while he's there. You know, it's just because eventually there's going to be the day when he's not around anymore, and we're going to wish we still had the Emperor. Ooh, I would love to see the Emperor again. Wouldn't you guys love to see that?
Maybe not for an entire movie.
I guess not.
No, maybe not for an entire movie, but I think if he's still alive and still up for it and still awesome on screen, because he's like one of the best parts about the prequel trilogy.
God, he's having so much fun. He's the only one having fun. Him and Ewan McGregor.
Like that scene where they're watching that weird, strange theater production or whatever. Him and Anakin. And did I tell you about Darth Plagueis the Wise?
From a Jedi.
That could be the most boring bit of exposition ever. But you're hanging on every one of his words.
Yeah. Or you know. You know what else might be good is I'd like to see set somewhere around A New Hope time, maybe before or after, but a movie where there's sort of him and Tarkin, Grand Moff, not Tarkin, there's him and, oh my God, I blanked on the name. Admiral Thrawn. Yeah, I'd like to see a movie where the two of them are not enemies because they both work for the Empire, but they're kind of competitors. And they're jostling for positions, maybe to solve some problem.
I was going to say,
I'd be really keen.
What I would say is that I would definitely see a Thrawn movie. Like I could watch that all day.
Oh yeah, maybe they could make it a Thrawn movie and just have, because like I'd imagine the two of them talking. It'd be like that scene in Game of Thrones with Littlefinger and Varys.
Oh, it'd be so good.
Know, imagine like Vader and Thrawn having a conversation like that. Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps. Really
runs the Empire. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And Vader is like. Vader's like, chaos is not. Chaos is a ladder.
Could you imagine that if that movie comes out and it just goes season 2 of Game of Thrones, that movie makes $2 billion easy. Like my God, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Well, let's move on because Sam, that was his last question. He did give us a third donation though. Sam, thank you so much. Third donation of $2. He said, by the way, if you need any help for the Discord, I got you. Thanks, Sam. Sam, maybe send me an email to banditincorporated@gmail.com, because if it turns out the Discord needs like a moderator or an admin or something, maybe you could be one of the moderators or something, because you seem to know a lot more about Discord than I do. Cool. All right. So moving on, the Mr. Pete channel gave us $2. Thank you, Mr. Pete. And he said, 2021, get ready for Ben Kenobi, A Star Wars Story. Has it been announced for 2021?
No.
No, I think there have been like rumors and that apparently Ewan McGregor's been in talks, but this is all rumor. There's no actual confirmation.
Yeah, well, that's what I was hoping they'll bring in Darth Maul in for. In fact, let's hit them up again on Twitter, guys. Go to the Twitter page. If you haven't done it yet, let me repost that in the chat.
That's hilarious.
Actually, while Bandit's sorting that out in the chat, I can't stand idly by. What's his name? JGFJGFIFY. Seeing a lot of like, that's pansexuality is not when you want to have sex with toasters. That's called object sexuality or objectophilia. That is not what pansexuality is. I think that's not cool. So yeah, I'll just call that up.
Right, so everybody, I posted it again in the chat. Just copy that and just post it into Twitter. We're going to tweet at Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan versus Maul rematch. Let's make this happen. Hashtag Star Wars rematch. Hashtag 30-second orgasm.
Hashtag 30-second orgasm.
So yeah, just copy that and just paste it into Twitter. Let's see if we can get someone's attention there. Okay. Moving on. So next super chat is from as pooped by Anakin Skywalker is his name. I love that username, by the way.
That's a great name.
As pooped by Anakin Skywalker. Skywalker sent us $5. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And his question is saying sexist Star Wars fans exist as contradictory as saying racist Star Trek fans exist? Ooh, sick, nerdy burn there.
It's true. You can get like racist Star Trek fans. You can also get like very bigoted Doctor Who fans, even though that show is all about tolerance for everybody and accepting everybody.
Yeah.
It happens.
And you can get some wuss pussy Warhammer 40k fans. It's like, dude, have you read Warhammer 40k? That's pretty fashy.
I think being liking a certain show does not necessarily mean that everyone in that fan base aspires to all of the lessons and morals that show spouts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everyone can enjoy everything, but yeah, that's true. But like, I think it's like Star Trek has always very directly dealt with the racism issues, but it's always been with different alien races. Like I think I for one raise my fist for Romulan supremacy. You know, I look forward to the day when they rule the galaxy.
And there was also like that TV show Star Trek. It had the very first like on-screen interracial kiss on TV, or I think it maybe just been on-screen in general. So it's generally been a very progressive show, although progressive maybe some people.
Captain Kirk and Uhura, they were like a top deck.
A top deck. Is that an Urban Dictionary phrase?
That might actually only top deck. I guess Australians maybe get that joke. Maybe top deck in Australia is chocolate where it's like the white chocolate and the black chocolate on the same cube. You know.
I'm just Google chocolate.
It's called the top
Oreo.
That looks wonderful. Oh, this is food porn. This is food porn.
So there you go. Captain Kirk and Uhura, they were like top deck.
Oh, forget 30 seconds. So give me a full minute.
Actually, for our listeners, I'll put it up on screen share.
Oh no! Don't put it on screen. I won't be able to control myself.
Trilbee.
That's the resident fat dude of the podcast. You can't put this on the screen.
Here we go. All right, top deck chocolate.
Oh, this looks delicious. Sorry, I think
there it is. There, yeah, can you see it now?
Amazing. Why is this not in the UK?
It is the best chocolate around, and see, it's Kirk and Uhura right there.
Well, here's the thing that like if like a Star Wars boycott has really affected the box office so much, why can't these fans like put their minds together for a real cause, like getting top decks outside of Australia?
Let's do it now.
All Star Wars fans, get top decks into the UK.
At Cadbury.
Yes. There we go.
Everyone tweet at Kathleen Kennedy and Ewan McGregor, get top decks into the UK.
I'll tell you what, guys. I'll buy some top deck chocolates and I'll mail them to you guys if you want. How about that?
Yes.
You want that, Trilbee? I'll do
I won't be able to give you anything in return except
that's gonna be
my mess.
That's all right. I'll use the super chat for that. So
Now wait a minute. Now hold on. I don't want chocolate.
Okay, so moving on to the super chats, we've got two last super chats. We've got Connor Phillips, a regular listener. Hey Connor, he sent us $2. He said Darth Maul was brought back canonically in TCW.
The Clone
TCW.
Wars.
The Clone Wars. Yes, he was brought back canonically. And have you're a fan of that, right, Trey?
I am. It's a good show.
So, what's your does he go through a period where he kind of becomes a good guy in that? Because I haven't seen the whole thing.
So what show is this again? Sorry.
What's that?
What was this about again? Sorry.
We're talking about Darth Maul and the Clone Wars and how he's gotten brought back. I
got distracted by more top deck, so I didn't listen to the question.
We are grown to be sympathetic towards the character of Darth Maul via, and the chat will correct me if I'm wrong here, of course, via his brother, him and I believe it's Savage Press, I believe is his brother's name, and kind of their relationship with the Emperor and what it means to be an apprentice and all that. And it really, he does come back a lot more in Rebels as well, as kind of Kanan's sort of master, not Kanan, Ezra's sort of master maybe. And then, of course, he ends up getting taken out by Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think at the end of the last season, like season 4 or 30. Yeah. So his story has been told throughout the expanded universe, and he's kind of been that character of he finally got justice in the Clone Wars. So.
Yes, for everyone who's wondering why Kermit the Frog is on the screen right now, that's... you sent me that on Skype, Trilbee, so I thought you probably wanted me to include it.
You're reacting to Top Deck.
That's your reaction to Top
That was a live feed to my desktop.
That's right. Okay, so last super chat is.
I'm just thinking if this was back in the film, if this was during Film Brits, that would be the thumbnail. That image in the title would be 30-second ejaculation.
God.
I think the combination of those two is just the best.
That's amazing.
Oh. Okay, so that's all our super chats. So we can go through our regular chats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sent the list. I sent the list to you guys on Twitter. So.
Sam Heinrich also just gave us another $2.
Wow, man!
Asking you, Bandit, to check your email after this podcast to talk about the Discord.
Yes, we'll do indeed.
And so yeah, thank you very much, Sam. You've been very awesome this live stream.
Yes, we love you, Sam. You're amazing. Hashtag no pansexual. Okay.
Hashtag top deck for Sam Heinrich.
We at the Movie Mania podcast do not condemn anybody who chooses to act in the age of pansexuality or any sexual preference. We make jokes merely to be funny, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Anyways,
listen, kids, as long as it's consensual for everyone, I don't mind who you screw.
Yes,
we have to cover it before we get called out a homophobic or whatever. Oh boy, that's gonna be a fun conversation to have.
Okay, so Crazy Chameleon said, "Have you guys watched The Feebles? It's R-rated Muppets character by Kiwi Peter Jackson." Yeah, that's what we talked about before, was it? Is that what we talked about before?
No, we talked about the Happy Time Murders trailer, but Meet the Feebles was like a film from like the late 80s, early 90s.
Wow, that was ahead of its time. R-rated Muppets.
It was something like it was one of Peter Jackson's, one of his very first films, and it was a massive flop. It was actually like during when Peter Jackson won his like best director for one of the Lord of the Rings films. Like during his acceptance speech, he said that Meet the Feebles was like snubbed from the Academy. That was just like a fun way to bring his career full circle. But I've not seen it. I only really know it by reputation.
You know, there seems to be a lot of these R-rated Muppets going around. Maybe we should watch them all in the 1 week.
Well, like, there's also the Avenue Q musical.
Okay,
It's like if you've heard of like Avenue Q, it's the musical that like the internet is for porn song. Everybody's a little bit racist song. Yeah, there's a lot of weird and funny songs in there.
Yeah. Okay, so
If you were
DML.
gay, that'd be okay. That's also another one of the songs.
So DML Disciple says, what do you think? Last Jedi was so terrible that it makes Batman v Superman look good? No, I actually think Batman v Superman was worse than Last Jedi. I walked out of The Last Jedi happy and became angry later on. With Batman v Superman, I walked out of the theater. It was the first time in my life that the movie had really, really gutted me. It really had. It was like, oh, I'll never be the same after that. How about you guys? Which do you reckon is the better movie? Last Jedi or Batman v Superman?
Yeah, Last Jedi, no question. Batman v Superman is just it's one of the worst. And like I've said, I love
cream ice cream or a kick to the balls. Like these are what do you mean? Yeah, of course. It's got to be Last Jedi.
Batman v Superman is not a kick to the balls. It's one of those little flicks that barely gets you, but hurts 5 times as much. It's that, but for 2.5 hours. And if it's the extended cut, it's for 3 hours. Last Jedi is a flawed, but in my opinion, pretty wonderful film.
Wow, that was so brilliantly delivered. I'm sorry, that was the best.
I speak from experience.
Yeah, there's so much history in that performance. Yeah.
Okay, so Matthew Mann, regular listener. Hey Matthew, how's it going? He says this is a good one. He says between lightsabers, blasters, electro staffs, light whips, laser cannons, and thermal detonators, which is your favorite Star Wars weapon and why?
Whoa.
Is the Force an option? Was the Force an option? Because that's
lightsabers were.
Okay. Well, then it's lightsabers.
So I'll read it again. Lightsabers, blasters, electro stuff. So I take it that's the weapons the red Imperial Guards have. Electro stuffs, those things.
Mm-hmm.
Light whips. I don't remember seeing light whips. Do you?
I think it's
was it those red guards in The Last Jedi?
Oh yeah, one of them had kind of a chain thing. Yeah.
Well, I know. Like
last one he says
exist in expanded universe.
Yeah, he says light whips, laser cannons, and thermal detonators. I think we could rule out thermal detonators. Like, I mean, that's good if you're taking out a room full of guys, but if you just got to defend yourself, it's not very useful. Well, maybe it is because you turn it on and no one comes near you.
Well, one great thing about the lightsabers is that it's offensive and defensive because you can use it to deflect blaster fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have the lightsaber, then you might be able to use the Force as well, so you could disarm other people.
Yeah. But mind you, though, is a lightsaber really better than a good old blaster?
Yes. What? Yes.
I think that you can
remember Han Solo's. It's like never matched a good blaster. Pokey religions and ancient weapons, no good for a good blaster at your side.
If you throw a lightsaber at somebody, they're not blocking that. You know what I'm saying? But if you shoot a blaster at somebody, we've seen in the expanded or we've seen in the films that sometimes cannot do anything. Vader just takes the blaster bolt or whatever to the hand and then just like takes the gun out of his hand. Like that just happens. But if they throw a lightsaber at somebody, that's cutting through whatever it's going towards.
Does anyone have a preferred lightsaber type, like Darth Maul's double-ended lightsaber or like Count Dooku's curved handle lightsaber? Etc. Does anyone have like a favorite lightsaber type?
Yes.
Okay, moving on.
I do. It's Kylo Ren. I love his lightsaber. Call me crazy.
Yeah, I'd go for his too because it has the hilt. It has like the cross guard, protects your hand.
So it's fiery because the crystal's cracked. Like if not that, then maybe Asajj Ventress from Clone Wars. She has 2 curved hilts that come together and form a staff. That's just but besides that,
and I think Kylo one's better because it's so crackly and weird. It's scary just in that alone. Like Luke's one, it just goes zoo, and everyone's like, It's the kind of thing that a kid would go over and try to touch because it looks so nice. But with Kylo Ren, no one's going to touch that. Like they'd be like, they run away.
When it turns on, it's like a it sounds like you like just broke a glass or something. It sounds really nice. That's pretty good sound design. I believe it's Ben Burtt that did that.
But whatever weapon allows me to kill more porgs, that would be my weapon of choice.
Oh, a Wookiee, of course.
What about a lightsaber scythe? You know,
I'm sure those exist in the canon.
You know, like the Grim Reaper has that side that he uses, like supposed to cut grass with it. You had like a lightsaber one of them for the porgs. You just like that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Can I get like a lightsaber infinity gauntlet? Like just put it in my hand and different type of.
Yeah, you know what? You know which one? Call me boring. I'm gonna go for Han Solo's blaster. Best one you can go.
Good luck getting through my lightsaber hill.
I'll shoot you in the foot.
Oh, yeah, I can't defend a blaster bolt with my lightsaber.
Okay, well I'll shoot foot face. And
then I'm force choking.
The blaster has got the advantage, though, in that there's a 2-hour movie out in theaters right now to find out how Han got that blaster.
Yeah, how did he get it again? I can't remember.
I mean, I'm just saying, there's a whole trilogy of movies and how Luke got his lightsaber.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, I'm going to go with a good old blaster. You know, we have projectile weapons for a reason. You know, you have that, you don't, and it's like you have to practice a lot with lightsabers. With blasters, it's like you just go. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh yeah, you know, if you mess up once while practicing with a lightsaber, you're good. Yeah, you're not using it ever again. Yeah, you only mess up with a lightsaber once, and then you chop your dick off.
But I suppose there's with a lightsaber you can deflect, and it's going to be much harder to deflect. But with a blaster, you can't deflect incoming fire, can you?
Probably not.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, you're right. Lightsaber would be better for that reason. If you got no cover, the lightsaber you can at least deflect with that. Yeah, you're right. I go with lightsaber and I go with Kylo Ren's. Yep. Are we all going?
Same answer.
Yep.
So I'm just kind of my brain is just sort of running out of steam.
I'm with you, Trilbee. I hit 3 a.m. trade about 15 minutes ago. So.
Oh, cool. I hit 4:40 a.m. Trilbee now.
I've hit 1:40 p.m. just now, and I'm bright and happy, and got the whole day ahead of me.
Fresh as a daisy.
Well, there's only a couple more. You guys can leave whenever you want, but I want to chug through them. So yeah, just any time you want to go, you could just go. All right. So Matthew Man also. Sorry, go ahead.
That's just hit me like a train. Just that sudden tiredness.
Yeah. All right. Well. Let's go to the next one. Matthew Mann says, question, do you think that Image, IDW, Dark Horse, and Mirage Comics have the potential and ability to get past DC and Marvel Comics? No.
Like best case scenario, they're on a similar platform or on a similar level. That's best case scenario.
But like people like comics like Image and Dark Horse, they've got 1 or 2 big issues and big series that kind of define like that kind of give them the big bucks right now. Like I'd say Image. I think they do Walking Dead, don't they? And that's kind of the most well-known thing. But Marvel's got so much, and DC has so much in their roster. I think
that's true. And I mean, even when like the Star Wars type stuff the goodwill was at its height, it still wasn't at the same level as Marvel and DC. So no, I think Marvel DC.
And now Marvel, I think Marvel puts out the Star Wars comics now, anyways. So
yeah, that's right. Okay, so Noah O says, question: have you guys seen Mr. Robot? If so, what did you think of it? I have no idea. I have no idea what that is. I'm going to Google it, screen share it, in case people don't know what it is.
It's a show that
spoilers.
I think it's in the UK. You can mainly watch it via Amazon Prime, but I think it's from like it's
TNT. I think
TNT
or no, or USA. Apparently, it's a great show. Rami Malek who's nominated for Mr. Robot, but it's about like hackers and stuff and corruption and all that. But I hear nothing but great things about it. I've been meaning to watch it. I'm probably gonna get school ends for me in like 2 weeks, so I'm probably gonna see it.
Spoiler alert: the final episode of Series 3 has them updating their privacy policy.
I didn't hear the joke. If it was a joke, I didn't hear it because I unplugged my headphones because you said spoiler alert.
Crying out loud, Trey. I'm trying really hard here, and you're not even listening.
I'm sorry.
The series finale of Series 3 is that they've discovered they need to update their privacy policy.
So there we go. I got it on the screen now for people. Mr. Robot. Okay, yeah. So, all right. No, I haven't seen that, but if it's good, yeah, I might check it out.
Yeah, like you're gonna see Rami Malek, who's like the lead in Mr. Robot. He's gonna be Freddie Mercury in the upcoming Bohemian Rhapsody.
Did we talk about that trailer?
Briefly last week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Yeah.
I know too much about the behind the scenes drama and the fact that it's not going to be a genuine recreation of the Freddie Mercury story to not be excited, but the trailer's a really good trailer.
Okay, we got the next question is the Mr. Pete channel. He's got a really interesting question. It's kind of more of a statement here, but it's very interesting. He says, prequels in today's dollars. The Phantom Menace, $2 billion. Attack of the Clones, $1.3 billion. Revenge of the Sith, $1.6 billion. Average ticket price from 1999 to 2003, $5. Today, $14. Huh. Okay. So it was still interesting. So Phantom Menace, $2 billion. Attack of the Clones, $1.3 billion. Revenge of the Sith, $1.6 billion. So it kind of was up, down, and then slightly better at the end.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this new episode 7 to 9 goes through maybe not those exact numbers, but a similar dip and then slight increase again for the third one, while not reaching the heights of the first.
Well, the original trilogy.
That's what I was thinking.
The original trilogy came out, and I think Star Wars, at the time, did 700. And then the Empire came out and did 550, and then Return of the Jedi did 430. So I mean, the movies decline as they go along. That's just something that the franchise.
So if the new trilogy follows that pattern, so it was $2 billion, and then I think $1.3 billion for Last Jedi. So
yes,
Episode 9 would be 1.6 or $1.7 billion.
Yeah,
if it follows its
Jurassic World money. I'm thinking Episode 9 will do. It won't hit $2 billion, but it'll probably come somewhere in that ballpark of 1.7, 1.8. If it's good, if it's able to get the universal reception that Force Awakens got on its release, it has a better chance of hitting that high billion, closer to $2 billion range.
Sure. Well, You Versus Me says, why does Disney set up the idea of a fun heist movie, Rogue One, Solo, but then always drop the formula halfway through?
Because they drop the directors halfway through.
Yep, that's right.
I wouldn't say that Rogue One sold a fun heist, but it was setting up a down and gritty war film, and then that wasn't halfway through. So.
Yeah. And they turned it into a generic Battlefront mission. I haven't seen Solo, so I can't necessarily speak for Solo.
Yeah, well, I mean, it also could be maybe just the trailer thinks, oh, fun heist, that works well for the trailer. It communicates easily what the movie's going to be about, even though it kind of changes halfway through.
Yeah,
but but it might be good to you can do more stuff in the Star Wars universe, Disney, than just heists and good versus evil. I mean, it's like Empire versus Rebel. You can do more. There's more you can do with the universe, guys. Just
coming in 2020, Jabba the Hutt, a fun heist movie.
Jabba the Hutt, a pansexual story.
No,
no, but Jabba, you know that Jabba is pansexual. He don't mess around. He'll do anything. Anything that's gorgeous, totally. he'll have a go at.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's the name of that weird laughing thing? That's
you'll soon learn to
Salacious B. Crumb. God.
Yeah. Salacious Crumb's getting some action from Jabba, whether he likes it or not, which is not good. That is not a good thing. But that's why Jabba's a villain.
Well, based off his laughter, I guess he enjoys it. Yeah.
I think we know who's the sub and the dom in that relationship.
Right. Okay. Well, we only got 3 questions. We only got 3 questions left. Matthew Madigan says, "How bad would Star Wars be with Michael Bay as the director?"
God, awful.
I feel like in a way we kind of saw that with the prequels.
Yeah, it would be incomprehensible.
Well, the action in the prequels, I will say this: it's not. It's boring and it's dull, but we can understand what's going on. We get it. That opening tracking shot, Revenge of the Sith, is not particularly good, but we can track the action. We know what's happening.
I really like the opening of Revenge of the Sith, and yes, it is all technical wizardry and there's
you to read for me.
No, I agree with that argument, but it works for me for some reason. I even kind of like the General Grievous fight with Obi-Wan, because it's sort of these two are scrambling to get an upper hand on each other.
I like the silliness of every time Obi-Wan fights somebody. I prefer the Jango Fett.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen this? Is those of you who have got Movie Mania podcast bingo cards? You've got the center square. Mention Mr. Sunday Movies. His Christopher Robin trailer.
Yes, I brought this up earlier. Yes.
General Kenobi. That is brilliant. But yeah, those of you who've got the bingo, you got the center square this week.
Yeah. Okay, so RG Lestrange says, how long will Kathleen Kennedy last at Lucasfilm? Forever. She's not going to get fired. She's going to continue to drive this into the ground, and then she's going to burn it, and then she's going to stomp on it, and then she's going to blame everyone else for it being burned. That's what she's going to do. She's not going to be fired. If Zack Snyder didn't get fired, Kathleen Kennedy sure as hell isn't going to get fired.
I think realistically, Kathleen Kennedy will finish episode 9, maybe have one more spin-off movie, and then pass the torch to somebody else. Because, like regardless of her merits as a producer or what she's done to the franchise, I think after she'll work in the industry again after making 3 Star Wars movies and 2 or 3 spin-off movies. And I think she'll move on to other things and probably be quite successful at those. In my opinion, there'd be no shame in leaving.
I know Bob Iger's getting ready to take off. He's president of Disney right now. I know Kevin Feige is leaving after Phase 3 and/or sometime soon. And so, I mean, it would make sense that if they're doing a kind of a whole shakeup, and Kathleen Kennedy has gone on saying that they don't have any plans for movies after Episode 9 and/or the 3rd spinoff movie. So it would make sense if Disney's kind of doing this whole corporate shakeup of who's in charge of things. That Disney and Lucasfilm would do the shakeup as well.
Mm. Yeah, good question. Okay, last question from Matthew Mann once again. Love you, Matthew Mann. He said, "What do you think about Netflix, A Series of Unfortunate Events, compared to the Jim Carrey one and the books?"
Okay, I know this. I've read all the books. They're great books. They're maybe the second best book series I've ever read. I mean, Harry Potter has to take that cake from me, but in terms of young adult children's book series, do you know what this is about, Bandit? By the way,
no, just you take it.
For you guys that don't know, it's about these 3 orphans who their parents die in a terrible fire, and so they're sent to live with these guardians. And the books are about this guy named Count Olaf, who's attempting to take their fortune because they're very rich and all that stuff. And it's their misadventures. It's essentially like. It's like Edgar Allan Poe for kids. It's very tragic and it's very dark, but it's also sensible for younger audiences. And they're great books. There's 13 of them, but they also don't get very long. I think the last one's as long as the first Harry Potter book. So if you haven't read the books, I think they're very good. And they made a movie about them like 10, 15 years ago with Jim Carrey as Count Olaf. And I think it's a very good film. And it unfortunately had it didn't know how to necessarily. Maybe they didn't have the confidence, but they tried to take 3 books and stuff it into 90 minutes of movie time, and it shows. But they recently brought back the franchise for a Netflix series. I think it was either last year or the year before, and it came out, and I hated it. I hated the series. It kind of fundamentally ruined what was like this weird Tim Burton, Edgar Allan Poe-esque kind of tragedy that felt like a mature story for kids. And made it far more into the silly, like diet Wes Anderson kind of thing that really felt tone deaf. It's like Gotham versus Batman the Animated Series. You see them like it's all everything about it's just wrong. I don't know. Trilbee, what do you think?
Yeah, I have a soft spot for the 2004 film.
It's good.
Like it is obviously riding that wave of, oh, Harry Potter was a big success. Let's adapt any fucking book we can to make some money here.
Aragon.
And even that was a film that existed for a bit. It also has terrific makeup. It won the Oscar for best makeup with Valerie O'Reilly and Bill Corso, who I met. Bill Corso, awesome guy. He flirted with my girlfriend. The fuck, but yeah, Jim Carrey is great. Even though it's
makeup, don't they? So that makes sense.
but yeah, Jim Carrey is obviously having a lot of fun. There's just look up on YouTube Jim Carrey dinosaur from that's his impression of a T-Rex is really funny. But but the cast is great. They've got Billy Connolly and Meryl Streep and Timothy Spall in these really like fun roles. And when you compare it with the Netflix series, which is like diet Wes Anderson is the best way to describe it. It's Wes Anderson without the wit. It's Wes Anderson.
That's not my code, by the way. There's a channel called NetPicks, and I got it from that video. So just gonna quote those guys. Yeah,
but it's still correct. It's like Wes Anderson / Tim Burton, but without that real like sense of heart or belonging. And it's I've only watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I thought I tried to give it a chance. It just wasn't clicking with me. And I may revisit it in the near future. I have no inclination to, but maybe once it's all like all of the books have been adapted and like all 3 seasons are out, I may give it another shot. But as of right now, I don't even think Neil Patrick Harris, who on paper I think would make a great Olaf, is directed really weirdly. He doesn't have the presence I think the character demands.
And I don't think in this I'm gonna be that guy, I guess, but I don't think he really understands what makes those books work. I mean, and those are books that are willing to play around with what it means to be a book. Like there are certain times where the stories, it's told the story of the Baudelaire orphans, who are these 3 kids, through the aspect of the author Lemony Snicket. It's kind of like Lemony Snicket narrating the lives of these orphans. And sometimes it's like, oh, what a tragedy. I can barely fit I can barely write down words, and sometimes the words will be misspelled. And what the show does get right is that Patrick Warburton does a great job as Lemony Snicket. It's weird to have Lemony Snicket be given a face because it's all narration in the book. And I think the movie does a great job of having Jude Law. He narrates the film, and I know there's something. If I wish that the rest of the first one was successful, so we could get the kind of beautiful this shot on film called aesthetic of the first movie to be adapted with the rest of the books, as opposed to this weird, dull, gray, probably shot on a red camera aesthetic that the Netflix show has.
Yeah, I'd agree from what I saw from like the only 2 or 3 episodes I saw. But if you haven't seen the original like Jim Carrey, like Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events, I do recommend you check it out if you like if you've got like an afternoon free or something.
And guys, read the books. Good books. Yeah,
I just had a look at Star Wars Rematch, and we have 4 people posted it, and 3 of them is the 3 of us.
Yeah, the #1 trending on Movie Mania Twitter.
So thank you, Hammer Rockwell, for being the only person who actually bothered to tweet this. We appreciate it. Well, that was a failure, but okay, that's all right.
If you don't aim high, then...
Well, you know what it is. I guess it's because our live stream was just so exciting. People didn't want to leave it. That's why. You know?
It's about 50 people watching. Like that was the peak, I think. 50 or 51 people.
Oh, really? Wow, that's really good. Okay, well, there's one last question because Ampwich was complaining because his question doesn't get answered very often. So he re-asked it, so I've got it here. Ampwich said, are you guys disappointed like I am that the New Republic got no action in the sequels this far? And should surviving forces make a reappearance in Episode 9? I absolutely believe that. In fact, in my The Last Jedi mega review thing coming out, which is taking forever to come out, I've got a whole big rant all about that, where I was like, the New Republic was supposed to be the light at the end of the tunnel through the original trilogies. That's what they were working towards, and we didn't even get to see it. We get one quick glimpse of it before it blows up, and we have no idea. So it's like, good work, guys. All that struggle you went through in the original trilogy, you don't even get to see it. It's almost as if it never existed. It's really discouraging. Really is. Like,
as someone who's not who isn't that familiar with the expanded universe, is the New Republic basically like between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens?
Yes. Yeah, basically. Okay. What happened was after the last of the Empire's forces were defeated at the Battle of Jakku, which we see Rey scavenging in the beginning of Force Awakens, the New Republic was basically set up and established, and Mon Mothma was running it, and Mon Mothma brought in a policy of universal disarmament, going back to like the days of the Old Republic where they didn't have an actual army, until Palpatine created one for the Clone Wars, of course. So she does that, universal disarmament. But the problem is, and I mentioned this in the video, I'm like, the reason the Old Republic didn't have an army is because they had the Jedi to police the galaxy. So I was like, why did you disarm everyone if you didn't have the Jedi to step into the role? That's just begging the First Order to just arise out of nowhere unchallenged. Stupid. Don't disarm if you don't have the Jedi yet. It's yeah. So yeah, that's basically the story.
Idea of expanded, the New Republic is a nice idea that we've definitely seen before, by the way. But I think in terms of the stories that these filmmakers are trying to tell, and I think where this trilogy is trying to go, I can understand why they've steered away from the politics thing of what is Star Wars, because I feel like this is far more character focused. And I think
they've steered away from space politics to real world politics.
I think it's far more about the characters and journey and sometimes in many ways what Star Wars actually means. In the case of The Last Jedi, as opposed to let's sit down and talk about what it means to, politics and tax evasion and policies and all that. And I'm fine with that not being Star Wars. I'm completely fine with that not being what this Star Wars is about.
Yeah, totally.
But trade deals.
Space taxes.
Gungas, and we need to make sure that all the taxes and the Trade Federation.
The motion is conceded. New chancellor will be impeached.
I want Jar Jar to kill Han Solo.
Yeah. So, if anyone gets that reference, I love you so much. Okay, you want to close it out here, Bandit?
Yes, we can finish up.
All right, whenever you're ready. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
All right. He's already walked away from his computer. All right, thank you guys so much thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of Mania Podcast, where we talked Solo. Join us next week when we talk whatever it is we're talking about. We're probably going to do Jurassic Park. I know we already did Jurassic Park. Never mind.
Well, Jurassic World doesn't come out in the UK until the Wednesday after.
Oh,
so okay. I'm not going to have seen it by next week.
No. We don't get it till we get it on June 22nd. So you get it like 2 weeks before we do. Trilbee, where people find you?
Well, you can find me currently trying to track down every single top deck on the planet and bring it to the UK. Do you want to know what? It's 5 a.m. here. The sun is rising right now. The sun is rising in the UK. I feel like Luke Skywalker. Neon a rock looking out at the twin suns rising. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Trilbee Reviews, or on YouTube at Trilbee Reviews, or Mr. TARDIS Reviews for my TV or Doctor Who related stuff, and also my website's www.trilbee.com. And Bandit, where can everybody find you online?
People can find me right here on YouTube, also on Facebook and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated. And I posted that Ewan McGregor tweet in the chat one last time, guys. You guys out there, just copy and paste that into Twitter. Okay, great. So until next time.
Yeah, bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, press stop.
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram